People, it's Tech Talk Taco Tuesday with your hosts Jimmy Lewis and Logan Tyler.
Welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. This is episode number how many?
163.
163. And so since 163 is such a special number, we thought we would do something special. We would bring in a special guest, friend of the show, former co-host.
Former
co-host.
I've been on a couple times. I was here more then.
Right. You got busy, life changed. Mm-hmm. Jorge Jestes. He's going to reposition his sticker. His sticker's all over the place around here. I don't even, they pop up.
It's international, actually.
It is? It's gone international.
Yes, it's gone international.
Where international, like
they're
where?
hard to get. All over.
Oh, because you
like
want
North Dakota.
Yeah, that, okay, understood. And then you gave it some Canadians and they went a little bit.
Canadians got them.
So, George is a coach for Jimmy Lewis Off-Road Training. You ever heard of that place?
Me?
Yeah, I have. I invented it. You have a lot of other accolades, but sometimes you're a little timid about talking about your accolades. And then other times, you'll just, throw them out there. So I'm going to let you do this. But the interesting thing about tonight's show, and for everybody that's watching on Instagram, you can watch this live on both YouTube and Facebook, but Instagram doesn't really give us the latitude that we like. It's not like my OnlyFans account that I haven't started yet, or my Grindr account that I don't even know about. But either of those, Trevor says he needs George stickers. Why? Because last time
he's needed them for a while. Leave some here with Jimmy, but the problem is if they're left out, people take them.
I'm
looking so in demand. I'll put some on the table for you, Trevor.
I'm looking at 3 George stickers on my desk right now.
The funny thing, Trevor, when you're talking about George stickers, is that don't beg for George stickers.
Well,
do it
Trevor's
the other way.
Inside.
Trevor, you say, "Hey George, I'll run your sticker if you want to sponsor my team." Let's do it the way we're supposed to be doing this.
I sponsored. I sponsored.
You sponsored me this weekend, so I'm a kind of we'll say. I'm like a semi-pro mechanic. Like my mechanicking is not my real job, and I needed to kind of take a bump in mechanicking, right?
Well, you're a professional because you got paid this weekend.
Well, that's what I mean. George sponsored me in my mechanicking, and I got a lot of money for doing a really small job. I made it seem kind of big, but you're too cheap, Trevor. You don't pay him to run the sticker. It's the other way around. We need to talk about this. That's not success there. That's the wrong direction. But anyways.
Right. And you know so much about
making
revenue
money.
Generation and success in that regard, Jimmy.
I made so much money when I didn't know how to make money. I don't need to make money now.
Okay.
How's that?
Sounds good.
That's pretty good. That's why we're sitting in the plush, well-lit offices of Dirt Bike Test
Studios.
The Dirt Bike Test literally is negative income, and we can afford to do this. So, but if you're watching on the YouTubes, I think that's what we have, YouTubes, and they can give us money to get their question up first in the chat.
We do have super chat enabled, so if you want to go ahead.
Yes, super chat. That's where you can throw us a nugget.
No, I'm scared.
And then you get money. So,
How
anyways,
does that work?
This show would not be possible without the help of our sponsors, which we have a few of them, and we really appreciate those sponsors. Of course, Yamaha. Does everybody notice I'm riding blue bikes a lot more lately? Tenerays, YZ250 FXs, shredding, having fun. My plans changed tomorrow, and I was supposed to drive, but now I might have to ride. And the only good thing about my plans getting completely screwed up is I'm looking more and more at riding a Teneray 700 from here back to California.
Have you done that before?
Not on the Teneray. I've done it on a lot of different bikes, but that might be the perfect bike for doing this. Yamaha makes a lot of super awesome bikes. If you go to YamahaMotorsports.com, you can check them all out. There's a lot new for 2023, but I don't know because Matt hasn't negotiated a new contract, and they haven't given me any ad reads. Taco Moto, they bring you this interesting segment called Roost or Endo.
Yeah, you got to up his fee to do that too. He got in early. He got in from the beginning.
Yeah, that happens. But the good thing is,
be the nice guy.
Everybody goes, "Oh, Jimmy, you're just trying to, you only do this because you're in it for the money," which is totally true. I'm in it for the money. But my deal with Taco Mike was he's got to give it to our fans. And so he gives out $100
Yeah, once
gift.
again, you dodge the money.
No, I gave half of it away. So he is actually giving $100 to our every week, the one that we find the most enjoyable submission to Roost or Endo. If you want to know how to do that, wait till that segment comes. It's usually in our second hour, but we can make it happen at any time.
And that's pretty cool that he does that.
No, it is super cool.
And it's brilliant too, because that $100 just opens the floodgates.
I'm a shill.
You got $100 in, and you go, oh no, click, add that to the cart, add that to the cart. So that $100 gift cost you $900, but that's okay.
I'm a shill for all of the stuff. I know there's technical issues going on. I can totally tell because Matt is doing stuff. The cursor's like spinning around like a little
what is all that?
like
It's
a hurricane
flying all
on the
around
screen.
our prompter there.
Yeah, we can't see our chats up there.
Taco Moto. Who else you got on?
Scott Sports.
Yep.
Hey, so
those guys are helpful.
I rode yesterday, and we had like crazy changing weather conditions: clouds, a little bit of drizzle, clouds, bright sun, back and forth, and that's totally the perfect time for the light transition changing lens. But I wore the amplified lens, game changing. I was super stoked on that. I mean, especially when it was dark and we were riding these single track trails kind of in the trees. Good times. Scott
I
Sports.
have that transitional lens in my goggles. That's my go-to before you got sponsored by them. And when you said Scott Sports, I thought about Scott's dampers.
Okay.
And who is Scott? It's Scott's dampers.
That's
is he
Scott
the
Ford.
guy?
No relation, yeah.
No relation.
No relation to Scott
But
Goggles.
he's really helped. Or no, but is that Scott, the guy that owns a company or whatever?
That owns Scott's. Yeah, there's actually a
The
Scott
damper.
at Scott's.
Scott at Scott's damper is the Scott for Scott's damper. Right?
That sounds right, yeah.
Okay, because
Did he-
he's really helpful.
did he help
I've talked to him on the phone too.
Yeah, he's-
saved me a lot of money. I was switching, like taking a damper from one bike, putting it on another.
Did you talk to Scott or just talk to Steve?
I thought it was Scott.
Okay, could have. Yeah.
Was it
Scott runs the
Steve?
company but he doesn't know anything.
Maybe it was Steve. I don't
Now,
know.
if you want to talk to the guy who knows everything, that's
Forget
Steve.
about that story. Okay, that was Steve. Maybe.
Anyway, Scott Goggles. whole different thing, but it's really good. I like my Scott Goggles, by the way. Climb. It was crazy conditions between all the stuff. I was wearing Climb gear. I was super comfortable. More comfortable than the guy I was riding with who wasn't wearing that, but good times. DDC, make your chain wheels. Everybody knows that. Trail Tech, Fasst Company, Seat Concepts, Bulletproof Designs, and Double Take Mirrors. If you're listening to this right now and you're curious about a discount at Double Take Mirrors, send us an email and we'll try to figure out how to get you one. They're new to the show because they're waiting on another project that I committed to, and I have to give away stuff for free when I can't produce on the other end.
Did you get that those mirrors to that journalist at the KTM rally?
I was never able to do that. I couldn't.
Just didn't come together.
Well, I pretty much forgot about 20 minutes after I was driving down the road, but I did remember a couple times, and it just the lattice of coincidence wasn't happening. So Clint Rivi 411 says, "Isn't Scott's damper a rebranded Öhlins?" That's actually a really interesting story, and some people think that there's a cooperation between the two of them. There's a reason why the Scott's is a Scott's and an Öhlins is an Öhlins. I know that story because I was directly involved in the reason it became that, and I would like to get Scott on here to tell that story with me. So, no, it's not a rebranded Öhlins. There's some internal differences and stuff that I think they can both share. I don't know exactly how it works. I don't even know how much you would want to get into it because there's a lot of patents and patent stuff that's in there. And everybody else that makes a damper would love to copy what those two companies are able to do, but they can't. Patents. So,
Do the Öhlins and the Scotts essentially do the same dampening functions in different ways?
So before there was an Öhlins, it was called I want to say Unique. Unique. I remember when we tested some of the very first ones, and my memory is hazy on this, but I don't have to deal with it every day. I mean, the hazy memory I do, but not the actual specifics. But we were testing this steering damper that was a center mount over the triple clamp with a steering post that allowed, that did the damping. And I think at some point, Olin's thought that this might be a better shock absorber. And so I think they bought the technology. And at the same time, I think Scott may have had some sort of connection with them to make this steering damper thing. And both found out different things about it. And I think the thing that made the Scots was return to center valving. So in other words, it damps away from center and it returns free. And that's what makes a steering damper work properly for off-road, in my opinion, and probably anybody else who uses their bike aggressively off-road.
So I don't know if you ever had seen any of these bikes, but they used to have something where it was just a big knob through the steering stem and a friction thing. You could tighten it down and just, Bob, you know.
Yeah, desert sleds. Yeah, so steering damper is nothing
I think my
new.
Norton had something like that, but I'm not sure.
And there's all different kinds of, different kinds of things. Matt, what are we doing here? What do we got going up there?
Fixing chat like how we normally have it.
Okay.
Troy, what about the precision damper?
Yeah, Troy asked that. I don't know about the precision. Oh, the precision concept? The precision. There's a lot of dampers out there, and I'm not 100% sure. I haven't tested all of them. I tested a lot of them back in the day when I worked at a magazine because everybody sent them to us, and I tried most of the ones that were sent to us. And it's kind of unfortunate when I don't know. I knew so much about them from a little bit when we did the early development on them. I'd learned a lot about like why you would want certain things and not. And so when I would get one and I right away, you could ask them, well, what does this one do? And then they tell you all the things it does. And I'm like, okay. Because like 3 of those things maybe you don't want it to do, or there was advantages and disadvantages. So, yeah. Trevor Hunter, have you tried a precision steering damper? No, Trevor, have you? You're the other guy at Dirt Bike Test. I'm sure you have.
Here's another question that we got missed really quick from Miller Time Moto. What are the symptoms of a failing jet block gasket on a Kian PWK?
Why don't you answer that, Matt?
Yeah, you're studying up on carbs today.
Yeah, there was a little carb studying going on this weekend. What do you think? No, PWK, you did not work on one of those.
No, I was going to say,
that's the power jet carburetor. So it's essentially a carburetor that has an electronic circuit in there and a little open, valve in there, and so it richens and leans the jetting by a substantial amount based on mapping. And generally that was done in conjunction with power valve opening and closing. And Josh O'Chonuvi has a question here that I'm going to try to get to.
So you don't have the what was the question was?
So how do you know when it's failing? Yeah, your bike runs like shit.
Yeah,
it's really hard to tell. So how do you diagnose it? That's an even better question. Bob raised his hand. So Bob is our moral support monkey person in the room. Okay.
He's in witness protection.
The electronic line.
He stood in front of a camera this weekend.
Disconnect the electronic line.
Right.
And see if anything.
That's Bob. I hadn't thought about that because I
now
want to
you got
answer
to
this
say,
other
check
question.
out the big brain on Bob.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is, yeah. So Kelly says it leans on top. No, Kelly, you'd be amazed at on certain maps that they open and close at different times. And so it does richen when it needs to richen and leans when it needs to lean. So Bob said, you probably couldn't hear him because he doesn't have a microphone. He's scared of cameras. We're going to get the Bob cam. I'm not going to tell him one of these times. Did he go piss himself or what?
Sharded.
Scared. Yeah, he sharded a little bit when he got
Okay,
there.
when you're 90, that happens.
Well, I gave him a compliment.
60,
and
it happens.
It's kind of strange that I gave him a compliment. Bob said disconnect it and see if you notice a difference.
Start unplugging stuff. That always works.
Yeah, because it's real simple. You're unplugging something and you're basically turning it off, and then it won't work, and then you should see a difference. So hopefully that answered your question. I don't know who it was from the question, but if it does, pop back in the chat and let us know. Or maybe, you know what I always say, just go out in the street and test it out right now. Get back to us. So we had a good question here that Josh O. Chonui, I love all the names. How did the 620 rally from your 97 Dakar compare to the other Dakar bikes that you've ridden? Well, those bikes were actually really awesome bikes because they both possess the capability to get me to the finish line at the Dakar. And the interesting thing is when they rolled off the boat or they rolled off the truck, one was off a truck and one was off a boat, they still had they'd never been run. They were just off the assembly line. They literally had the plastic cover over the seat. It was like a bike that shows up in a crate, except they had to put the front wheel on to get it on the boat or the truck. And that's the way I got the bike. And both of those bikes, one of them I managed to make sure it didn't finish because I shit all over it, essentially. And then, I got diarrhea. And
Dehydrated.
That almost died me. And then the other time I rode one all the way to the finish of Dakar. So they were great bikes. So as far as doing their job for what most people would need, those bikes were great bikes. Looking back, they were vibrating sieves that were really slow, that kind of were medium level handling. But hey, then the one I rode in 97 won a stage at Dakar and beat Peter Hansel. So, what more does it need to do? So the best rally, you know what's funny? We talked about the best bike I'd ever ridden. Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention my factory BMW rally bike, which is at the time, at that moment, was the best bike I've ever ridden. And then it also ended my racing career. So maybe I have animosity.
Well, it's probably the best for all the racers that came along behind you since it ended your career. Right?
No.
Because none of those guys would be known if it didn't end there, right?
No, it really, it was built up a lot in my head. So really what we were going to do on this show that was brought to you by Yamaha, Taco Moto, Scott Sports, Climb, DDC, Trail Tech, Fasst Company, Seat Concepts, Bulletproof Designs, and Double Take Mirrors. You know, if somebody can call up on the phone and recite those in order, I'll give them a prize.
Somebody's going to just back it up.
But they got to call right away. It's hard to do. I know this because I try to cheat tests all the time. You can also support dirt bike tests by clicking through our Amazon links or our Rocky Mountain MC ATV links on the website. There's a little thing.
Yeah, I'll
up in
be
the box.
curious if you see a blip because I bought the C cylinder and all that. I spent some money on Rocky Mountain, but I did do it the right way.
Yeah, I was going to let George. Basically, I don't just let anybody on this show. You think.
Yeah, you do. Just like you don't let anybody call in. That's why nobody calls, right?
we hang up on a lot of people. Well, Josh says he just bought a 620 Rally that used to be owned by Gary Vosberg, so he's just curious. So that particular bike, I think that one is orange. Let me know whether it's orange or purple, Josh. I raced one of the ones that Vosberg bought in one of the Best in the Desert races way back in the day, and it was some sort of because those bikes were kind of gray market, so it had to be brought over here for a reason. So they said, "Hey, go ahead and race this in a race." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." So I did.
Is that picture in the other house?
No, that's
kind of a head-on, is that?
No, that's the day I won the
Dakar?
stage. That's the day I won the stage. Yeah, that's a pretty. It's orange. So yeah, that's the one, Josh. That's the one that I guess Scott Harden somehow arranged to have it brought over, and I raced that bike for 300 and something miles and never saw it again. They handed it to me at the start line. We filled it up. I rode it. I think we poured a little bit of gas in there. I finished the race, and then they took it away. I never saw it again. So welcome to that. But anyways, so what we're going to do in the show is George was going to interview me.
See, he's been talking about this, but he didn't say what he wanted to cover or anything. He's just going to interview me. I've been talking about interviewing you on the Better Rider podcast, which you should go find because those are all kind of interesting. I can't wait for Jim's to.
But I can't really say what I want to say on that podcast. That's a professional podcast.
Yeah, right. What do you mean that's a professional podcast? As professional as this?
Oh, it's way more. I keep my edge. Hold on a second. Let me.
So you want me to interview you?
Hold on a second. I'm going to have some water.
Yeah.
So-
water. You know that back to the 620, the 640 was actually what got me kind of transitioning from street to dirt because I saw one in like early 2000. I saw a 640.
Okay, because this
on
would
the
have been
street.
96, 97, 98 era is when
Right.
Josh is talking about.
So but I saw one of those.
So by the way, this is George, by the way.
Don't interrupt me, Jimmy. But I saw one of those, and I just thought, this thing is so cool. This looks like it'll do everything. Big gas tank, off-road, it's going to do everything. But I bought one and still got it. 2002 640
Oh.
Adventure. And that's my Montana go-to if I need to go down the road for a spell or whatever.
Right, except when it's freezing cold or the roads are frozen or all those kind of things. So,
Right, or it's inconvenient
so
to
here-
get on a motorcycle.
so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna hang up on you, Instagrammers. By the way, that's just what we do because you have a short attention span. If you want to go watch this show, again, we are live on both our YouTube and Facebook channels. It also goes up as a podcast. You can do all the things you need to do.
Now, do these guys all
This is
switch
where-
over to like Facebook or
Oh,
something now,
some
or
of
what do
them
they
do.
do? Or they just Instagram and that's it?
They hung up on us already. So if you watch this, because we save it and then I'll go back and look, but you can watch this on the other platforms, and we're gonna do the Jimmy Lewis interview, and who gives a crap? But so we're gonna hang up on you. Bye. As I did, I ended it.
So, Jimmy,
Right.
you really want me to interview you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had our lawyers review the questions that you chimed up.
I see all these. I have this list of questions.
I have
here.
my legal counsel sitting over on the side. That tell me whether I can answer them or not.
So I think our motorcycling started in similar paths. You started on like mini bikes with lawnmower engines and stuff like that. Did you start that way, or did you start with a little 50?
my first bike was a Honda CT70, actually. I think my dad got
So
it.
you grew
somehow
up as
for
a
free.
rich kid. You started riding motorcycles. You didn't
So-
have to scab together.
So my dad got it for
lawnmower.
free. I think he might have found it on the side of the freeway, but somehow he got it for free, and it did not work when he brought it home.
Okay.
And he basically told me and my brother, if you guys can fix it, you can ride it. Well, at that time, I was slightly more mechanically inclined than Matt is now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that hurt?
No.
Okay, good. Yeah, because he's my legal counsel at the moment. So I thought I tried, but then I asked my dad, hey, how do we fix it? And we whatever, and we pulled the carburetor apart and did whatever, and there's points.
It was whole though. It was all there.
It was missing like fenders and things, headlight
the
was
engine-
smashed. It looked like it'd been, I don't know where, I have no idea where it came from. So anyways, we got it running. And then it's like, cool, you can ride, but first you have to rake leaves and figure out you're going to pay for the gas that we put inside of this thing. The gas tank was under the seat. So, it's pretty
So
modern.
how old
bike.
were you?
No idea. 7, 8, somewhere in there. And so we got it running, and me and my brother rode around until we broke the thing in half. Like, because it had a pressed steel frame. And we were jumping it in no time. That's all we did.
Like behind the steering stem or something, or
It broke.
fork down tubes, or
Yeah, no, it kind of actually I think it started breaking the shock mounts off first. It peeled them out of the frame, but I think we just beat them back and then just broke the frame someplace else. But it was really bad. It couldn't I think my dad tried to have a guy down the street weld it, but not sure what happened, but we broke it again, and finally it was like, okay. So, back to being a rich kid. For Christmas, me and my brother got a brand new, and so this was in like 1980 CT70, because that was evidently the only motorcycle that existed in the world. I didn't even know what a motorcycle dealership was, but I wanted to ride them. So we got a brand new one that we had to share. And
how'd that work out?
I can tell you a story about like how me and my mom would actually have to like scoop the ice cream out with the scooper and put it on a scale and weigh it in the bowls before she gave it to us, because we thought that somebody,
Right. Somebody's
thought,
taking more.
right, somebody's getting the better.
My
advantage.
family, it was like you cut the cake, and the other guy gets to choose.
Oh, it's the same sort of thing. So we had this bike, and basically we had time so we can ride it. And usually, like I think we probably both did this. You get 30 minutes and you go ride it, and like you don't have a clock or whatever back then, so you try 30 minutes, but you'd be late coming back, and the next guy would be later, and then and then it would be out of gas, and then we have to go rake leaves or work
So
around the ranch.
were you able to ride right from home, or did you have to get?
Yeah,
okay.
right out,
Okay.
basically right out the backyard, out into the fields, and we had a little sand wash and places. But yeah, so that was it, and then we broke it in half, exactly the same way as the other one, surprisingly.
So that would be the beginning.
My brother
of dirt
actually,
bike
my
test
brother broke it.
in evaluating motorcycles, I guess, for failures,
Yeah,
testing.
My brother's always bigger than me. He was younger but bigger, and he broke it. He was he was ham-fisted. So yeah, so we didn't have a motorcycle for a little while, and we welded it, and it didn't work, and so now we had 2 crushed CT70s.
So tell me more, to fast forward a little. Explain to me how a transition to kind of racing and competition.
I like
happened.
transitioning. What now?
A transition
To racing?
to racing and competition, and
So we got XR 80s at some point, and we had to work a certain amount of hours and get a certain amount of money, and they cost $639 at the dealer,
okay,
and I had to get like $350, and then we managed to get XR 80s, and we rode those things, and now we were going riding with my dad, who had bought an XR 200. He had a Montesa, so he had an upgrade. He got an XR 200. We'd go trail riding, and of course, you're a kid. You want to race. You want to do like the racing stuff. That's what you saw in the magazines. And now I'm into it. I mean, I know where the Honda dealer is. I ride my bicycle 20 some odd miles down there to just go look at motorcycles and get brochures. I was getting magazines I look at the magazines at the school, because in school we had magazines. Kind of crazy.
really,
Yeah. Go to the store with my mom, look at the motorcycle magazines. So I was into it. Wanted to be a racer. We'd go riding with my dad. Well, we went up to Gorman, which is still there. It's a riding OHV park, and they had this little sandy little track. And there was some kids that were racers because they had numbers on their bikes and stuff, and they had all the gear. We kind of had half the gear, and we go ride around. And we were on a little XR80s, and he was on a YZ80. And I had neighbor kids that had like a YZ50, so I knew what a 2-stroke was, and I knew how they were faster. But I'm like, we're racing around. I'm gonna beat this other kid. And my dad's talking to his dad while we're all riding around. He's like, "Oh yeah, he races at Indian Dunes, and like we race on Friday nights, and they have this and that." I'm like racing with them, and so,
and you're still an elementary school kid.
yeah,
Yeah.
and wanted to go race. So I'm like, and I'm sure that's all I told my dad. I want to go race. I want to race. And
Did he ever race, or did he just
No.
had a
yeah,
bike?
he just had a
And
bike.
he's a fireman.
Fireman,
right?
yep.
So did he have shift work where he could
Right,
get
he
off
had
those stretches of time,
on
and
off, and
go
then
ride during
he
the
had-
week if you could? Or
Yeah, I
whatever.
had 4 days off.
Yeah.
And stuff. So, but he was super cool. He'd take us riding. We got to ride a lot of cool places around Southern California, and then it was like, well, let's go check out racing. So we went to Indian Dunes, and they had the mini bike track, and we watched them race on a Friday night, and it was pretty cool to see. But everybody was racing 2-strokes. They all had KX80s and YZ80s and CR80s, and my dad was so anti 2-stroke because he had a Montesa, and all it did was brake. Actually, it rode off a cliff too, with him on it.
Didn't those have a head that looked like a blooming onion on it or something?
I don't know if that was the Montesa, but yeah,
Flowering thing.
yeah,
Chrome on the gas tank.
yeah. I don't remember.
Red paint with a little chrome
I
right
don't.
there where your
He
knee
probably
was.
got his bike for free. I don't know where he got. He's almost as cheap as I am. So we ended up, okay, yeah, we need to get bikes, and he was a fireman, and the firemen are all into scams. You know how this works. Y'all got an angle because you always put out a fire at someone's house, or meet somebody or whatever.
Sure. It's networking.
He somehow met somebody that knew somebody at Kawasaki at Team Green. And I don't know how it worked, but Team Green used to get the bikes back from their racer kids, and they would sell them kind of inexpensively. So we got a couple of KX80s at some point, and they were 2-strokes, and he was horrified about like the maintenance. These are air-cooled KX80 2-strokes, by the way. And it was game on. We're gonna get to go racing. And at that time, I was kind of bad on my school grades, and I had to get my grades up to a certain level, which I did right away, like almost instantly.
That was his rule. Your parents.
That was my mom's rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your
And my mom made
parents pushed
the grades. My dad was like, kind of like, yeah, let's, keep, I kind of understand it. Let's just keep these kids motivated, out of trouble. Cause it probably at the moment would have been a lot easier to go throw eggs at police cars when they drove down the street.
So let me ask you, do you do that? Do you do that with Logan and the Cletus and them?
I try.
Matt's grown up now.
I try. I try to offer like sage advice, but I'm not their dad, so that's somebody else's job. Just try to encourage them in the proper direction.
Because you know my saying, it takes an idiot to raise a village, and you kind of do that.
Right.
These kids grow up. Matt was around, kicking around here, young and everything, and helping with the class. And now he's
so you're saying I'm raising a village.
You're the
Village
focus.
idiot.
You're raising generations of motorcyclists and stuff like that come through.
Got it.
I did. It takes an idiot to raise a village.
Okay.
You're that guy.
Thank you.
Anyway.
I take that as a compliment.
It is.
Should I take that as a compliment, Carrie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I want to know what happened when you went to your first race. Come on.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about George now. Oh, you're
So your
interviewing me.
first race was where and what?
Indian Dunes, Shadow Glen track. I don't know but I was on an 82 KX80. I think the 83s had just come out, but we got these used bikes, and I think we put a top in. We prepped it. We put a piston in it and made sure everything was good. And I probably rode the crap out of that thing getting ready because I wanted to be good. And we rode the 80 novice class or 80 beginner class. I don't even know which class they had. And I think I got second place in my first race. And we were hooked. There was a game.
There
on.
was more than two people in the race, right? Wasn't
Oh
it
yeah.
my gold medal?
No, back then, like the 80, novice or beginner class or whatever it was a full there's probably 30 riders at least. I mean, there's a lot of kids doing this, and we went and it was kind of one of those things where it was like, okay, we're going to do this maybe once a month, and you have to keep your grades up, and we're not going to be serious about it, but. As excited as I was, and I remember how stoked I was. I mean, I was stoked from the first time I got to ride a motorcycle, and this just continued. It was like anything I could do to do this. When we did well at the racing, both my brother did okay too. I don't remember exactly what place he got. I didn't care. I beat him. But my dad was pretty stoked too. He's like, "Whoa, I imagine that's the way dads are with mini bike dads and stuff." My dad wasn't that, but he's like, "Hey, we can go racing. This can be cool. I think we might have raced the next weekend, or we might have gone out next Friday night, to race at the international track at Indian Dunes, or I don't think I ever got to race at the little mini bike track up on the hill, but yeah, it was game on. We were kind of into racing, and we started racing at least once a month, if not more than that, and kind of figured out it was a fun time to be racing because we met so many people that were into it. And it's not just Indian Dunes. There's a track called Saddleback, and there's a track there's this track called OCIR, which I never got to race at, but it's Orange County International Raceway. There was Ascot that was going on, Deanza Cycle Park,
And all that stuff's within an hour or two of where you live.
we were up near Ventura. We were in Somas up near Ventura, and so it was all within reach to go to race at all these places. And so we just kind of did that.
Who was like your first sponsor? Did you have to go out and solicit them and go?
No.
Like go into a motorcycle shop. Go, hey, come on.
So my dad's fire station was literally like right down the street from Calgard Lubricants. So Calgard was a lubricant company. They're still around. I think they've kind of come back and forth a couple times, but evidently they probably put out a fire at the at the facility, right? And so we had Calgard. We had Calgard stickers, and we got 20 or 30% off. And they actually made really good oil. It was really good stuff because we ran it all the time and had good luck with it. But that O'Neill gear was like a few doors down from my dad's fire station. Sure enough, next thing you know, he probably had to do a fire inspection, and they were kind of cruising around there. It's like, it doesn't look like it's going to pass. My kids raced 80 novice out at Indian Dunes. Can I get 10% off? So I had an O'Neill deal.
Now, at that age, in those little races, do you get checks and stuff?
No, just trophies.
Just trophies?
Just trophies.
When do you start getting, at what level in racing do you start getting like little checks? Because I know, now that we know all these people up in Montana and stuff, their kids do all the horse stuff. Some of these little kids are getting checks. I mean, it might be $20 or $30, but they're getting checks for this stuff.
I think in the beginning it was just discounts. And then, we had, Kawasaki Central. And you met one of my original sponsor, related. Remember Chuck Dawson?
No.
That was it. He was one of these guys that was school. He was the one that worked on the Webb telescope. Matt would remember him. Remember the guy who worked on the mirrors on the telescope?
Vaguely.
Yeah. So Chuck was one of the mechanics down there, and so we had like Kawasaki Central, which is a Kawasaki shop in Oxnard that gave us some discount because when my dad saw us doing well, it's like, okay, we couldn't stay on these old 82s. We had to get 83s, the newer bike, because they were it went from air cooled to water cooled. It was a big difference, and so we ended up getting new bikes, and kind of the racing proceeded. It's kind of foggy, but sponsorship wise, I think they gave us a good deal on the bikes. I think they might have given to them at cost. It's always said at the time it was at cost. We were getting a little bit of a parts allowance as well, and so it was starting to take form. And some of the races, and this is just before the manufacturer contingency program started, but certain big races would have like Yamaha bucks or Kawasaki bucks, and you could go and you win. If you won, you didn't win $300 that would go as a parts credit and stuff like this. So that's kind of where it.
Do they still do stuff like that?
Oh yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
it. Yeah,
That's a big deal for a lot of people. That I don't know how active it is right now because I don't follow it, but I know a lot of the manufacturers do put up contingency programs for racing, and a lot of riders. When I finally moved up to 125s, I started making a living racing for contingencies. And I was getting a little bit from sponsors. At the time I'd moved, so I went from this like 10-20% off to sort of getting free gear and free oil. I was getting tires at a pretty good deal. It was just everything was kind of to where I wasn't really. I wasn't say it was costing us a lot to race. It was relatively inexpensive, but when the manufacturer contingency programs kicked in, and then some of these big series like the CMC Golden State Series, and this is all motocross, by the way, they would have like, I won a Pioneer stereo for my truck one year. I won a CR125 from Honda, because that was if you won the series, this is what you got, and was able to take those and generally, I put a stereo in my truck, and by this time I was about 16. Sold the Honda 125. That was enough money to go in. But the contingency money I got during those series was enough to buy another bike.
So that's like if you get first, they give you X amount of bucks.
Yeah,
just cash. If
yep.
you get
no,
third
not cash. It always went to a parts credit. And generally, I would just build up my parts credit to where I could buy a bike, and then that was going to be my new bike, and I would sell my old bike. And so I didn't pay for the bike, and I was able to sell the bike, the one that I was racing, or use it as a practice bike. And there was some dealers that would actually take your parts credit, and then they would give you like 70 cents on the dollar if you needed to get cash for it. There was times when it was just I was hustling. I was buying parts for my friends, and they would give me cash,
right?
And if I needed money, so there's lots of weird ways that I was kind of keeping it going, and that's where racing kind of that's where the motocross racing sort of led me.
Cool, and then just more and more district stuff and bigger races and desert races.
Well, no,
just kind of came along, or what?
No, I got to the point where I call myself a professional intermediate, and I started. So when I moved up to intermediate class, I was racing against guys like Mike Kudrowski, Jeff Matasevich, and if you followed motocross, these are big names: Willie Surratt, Kyle Lewis. I'm just trying to think of, but those are the guys I started racing against in intermediate class, and I was always getting third place, and I could never win. I get third place, and then these guys move up, and then the next group of guys come through. It's Ryan Hughes, it's Jeremy McGrath, Mike Chamberlain, Frankie Brundage. It's just guys, Denny Stevenson, Jeff Emig, like the list goes on of all these really famous, guys that succeeded well. And I was always this third place intermediate guy. And since I couldn't just keep winning, or I couldn't win, I couldn't move up into the professional ranks with like a ride. I kind of had a ride as an intermediate. I was getting some support. And it kind of, I don't even know where it ended, like when I finally quit, but I just got so burnt out on motocross because we tried everything. We started modifying my bikes because it was obviously I didn't have a good enough bike if I couldn't beat
Of
them.
course.
Right? Well, that wasn't the truth. We modified my bikes, and yeah, they got faster, but I got worse. And so instead of being a third place guy, I was a fifth place guy, and I was a seventh place guy, and I was getting burnt out on motocross. I was practicing. I was doing everything you probably could have done at the time because I wanted to be one of those guys. And it just wasn't working out. And I remember and motocross was getting big at the time. And I remember going to like a Golden State or a Transcal race, and I had at the time I was horrible at starts, and this is probably why I'm so good at starts now. I was horrible at starts, and I got bad starts, and I'd move up and pass a ton of guys, but I still wouldn't be good because the race was 2 laps long. Because they had 72 motos and they had to get them done in one day, and it's getting dark and the track's shit and it's dusty, and I'm like, I'm not having any fun anymore. We were driving 7-12 hours, wherever to go, Northern California, different places. We'd gone back and done Ponca City and some of these other races, and it was just the point where it wasn't any fun anymore, and I wasn't doing very well. And a friend of mine said, hey, you want to go out and ride this thing called an enduro? Because I had buddies that I rode with, that they would come to the tracks and stuff, and these guys they were enduro racers or off-road guys. You want to come and ride an enduro? I'm like, no, I'm not enduro. Well, finally I was just out of my skull because I liked riding motorcycles, but I wasn't having fun. I went and rode an enduro on my XR200. I just had this crappy old XR200 that we'd somehow acquired. And I went and had literally one of the most fun days of riding. We drove there. You didn't have to pay to get in the gate. You just pulled out in the desert and unloaded your truck, and you went and found some place where you kind of signed up, and it was, $20 or $25 or something. You signed up, and they gave you a number, and you stuck it on there, and you start. And I burnt every check at that enduro. I was the freaking fastest guy there. Still finished on the 4th page of results, but I had a really good time. And when I was done, I was tired. I wanted to go home and go to bed. I didn't want to ride more. And I'm
so
like,
the motocross stuff, you
ended-
were pretty
it ended-
fresh at the end.
it ended right there. I'm like,
Oh, okay.
I want to go riding off road now.
Yeah.
This is fun. And so I still raced a little bit of motocross. I was still kind of doing it, but that enduro experience, that off-road riding experience, because I'd always trail ridden, had always done that for fun because I couldn't get enough just riding around a motocross track. And so this kind of, I'm like, well, then I started looking at off-road. What is off-road? Oh, there's enduros, and there's an enduro championship, and there's hare and hounds, and there's wow, you can race and do this. And so there was an enduro up at this place called Ballinger Canyon, and I took my YZ125 and I figured out, oh, you have to time keep, because I learned about timekeeping, but I didn't pay attention, and figured it all out, learned it, and I don't know how it's called, the Leaping Lizard Enduro. And I may have won it. I don't remember. But I rode my YZ125 and went up there, and I had a really good time again. And this is how much I didn't care about. I didn't care. I just was stoked to be riding my dirt bike all day long as opposed to just for a couple motos. And I did well enough very quickly to carry a lot of my sponsors over, and then I'll also start to get new ones. And this is right about the time that I started doing the magazine photo modeling. I was kind of clinging on, trying to figure out how to get into this, because those guys got to ride dirt bikes and they got their picture in magazines. Like, how can I do this? And I had some friends that were doing it. So I started on quads. I hate to say that. Wasn't I going to give away a good quad story on this? Didn't somebody give me crap about quads?
Potentially. After doing this for 63 shows, they kind of blend together.
Right. Did you take some sedatives tonight, Matt?
No, I drank coffee to try and wake myself up. George and
Oh, did George give you something special?
no, really good lunch.
You want some number one? Every show
No,
we
then
talk
I'll
about
really be asleep.
we talk about tequila. So in case you're curious about tequila, I have number one. Did you buy this or I buy this?
That's not the bottle Carrie got you down there, is it?
No, that's good. The stuff you got me, Carrie,
Rigosa or
Rigosa.
something.
I have more of that over there. That's.
Over there.
Do you like that, or you want to try some?
No, we have some.
No, Rigosa is good. So this is number one. It's I'm going to tell you what it is in a few minutes when I have some. So with a name like that, you should probably understand where I'm going to go with this. It's like me talking about myself. I'm number one. So I don't know where we were. So anyway, started riding enduros. Did really well. Like right away, I was, just the motocross experience really helped in riding off road. I'd ridden off road for a long time. I, transitioned, switched over well, and then I figured out there was this thing called 6 days, like ISD, and I said, what could be better than trail riding for
That's
5
these little
days?
gold medals up here.
That's what those are for. Yeah. What could be better than trail riding for 5 days and going to a motocross race on the 6th? Like, there's nothing better in the whole world. I'm going to do that. And yeah.
Is that how those work? Explain the 6 days.
So the ISD, the International 6-Day Enduro, it used to be ISDT. It's kind of
Trial.
ISD trial,
Yeah.
but it's the Olympics of motorcycling is what it was called, because you represent your country. You go on a
Right.
team for your country, and it was 6 days of racing. Every day had like different challenges. They call them special tests, and you basically, your bike is impounded before the start, and you don't get to work on it. You're only allowed a certain amount of time to work on it. When I started doing it, you predominantly had to carry most of your tools. You weren't allowed outside assistance at all. It was quite a bit different than
Carry them on your bike.
carry
on
them
you.
with you. Yeah, with you. And you're only allowed tools to change tires, and it was real limited what tools that you could use. But at the end of the day, you'd come in and you could change your tires, but you didn't have very much time to do it. And so you do special tests. You trail ride, race around a track, race through the woods. Under time, but you're mostly just kind of trail riding between these things. And then they have a final moto where they're lining up at a motocross race, and you go. And I was like, I wanted to do that, and so I did. So we went into the ISD qualifiers, traveled around the country to get to those, and had pretty good success doing that, and things were going pretty good then. I mean, I trained hard, and I was talented. I've been riding for a long time, so that's how I.
Now there's another transition to the rally part of it too, right?
So
Because didn't you like ride your own bike to a rally just to kind of show up and tell them, look, I'm here, I want to do this, and then ride the rally or something?
So
race.
the way the story goes is the very first time I went to the ISD was in Germany, International 6 Days Enduro in 1989. And when I showed up there, I'm a kid in the candy store. I mean, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm in Europe, and that was my first time in Europe. I was there getting to race my motorcycle, and there's all the guys you'd seen in pictures of the magazines and by then you have to buy a video of the European Enduro Championship and stuff, because it wasn't so easy to get these days.
Oh, you mean just to watch it?
I'd
There's
have to-
no live coverage.
I'd
or
have to
anything?
I'd have to go to a crazy magazine store in Los Angeles and buy European motorcycle magazines to learn about like what this stuff was all about. It just wasn't readily available like it is today. There was no internet. But I wanted to do well, and I watched videos of these guys, and they rode a little bit different, and they carried a lot of speed around the turns, and the bike setup was a little bit different than we were accustomed to. But when I got there, it'd be like going to the Supercross pits, and you see the factory Honda semi and the factory KTM semi and the factory Yamaha semi. There was those semis, and then there's all those privateers that just come in their little van, their sprinter van. You want to be one of the factory guys, right? You want to be the guy in the van. And they weren't semis at the time, but there was guys that you could tell were on that level. They had the best. They had campers, converted campers and stuff, but it was these El Campañero, guys that were on Huskies at the time, and there was these Galois guys that were on Yamahas, and
The good old days of cigarette sponsors.
they were all Dakar riders. They weren't the best enduro riders. They were Dakar riders, and they evidently had money to spend because they were better. They had better stuff than the main enduro
top
guys,
enduro
top
guys.
enduro guys. And I'm like, I kind of like, well, who are those guys? And they're like Dakar riders. Dakar, I've heard of Dakar. Paris to Dakar, yeah, Paris to Dakar. I didn't know much about it. I'd seen the one video of the guy in the BMW flying off the dune and crashing into the bottom. That was my experience with Dakar. But it was like, you get to race from Paris to Dakar, and it's mostly desert. I'm a desert racer. I grew up riding District 37. I want to be one of those guys. I want to do that. This is in 1989. And so by the end of my first ISDE, I was already trying to, and nobody knew who the hell I was. It was my first ISD. They didn't care, but I finished second in the small 4-stroke class on a XR250 in the 350 class. So I did pretty well. And I'm going around trying to talk to every team like, hey, what do you got to do to go do Dakar? And I imagine I'm just like that kid that just like, what do I have to do? You don't know anything, but you're still asking the question. And they're like, it'll never happen. No way. Bring sponsors. You know, it was literally bring sponsors. You're an American. This won't work. And I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out. Like, can I race for you guys? You know, next year here, wherever I want, I want to race. This is the way I worked. And yeah, nothing really happened. And I went back to ISD 3 other times, so 4 times in total. And it wasn't a big deal here. Like the here didn't care. The U.S. market didn't care. I had to win a District 37 championship, go do National Hare and Hounds, race in Baja. Like, oh, okay. But that wasn't where my head was. And so it literally took till 1997. There's a little bit of time in between those two to manage to sell my soul to get my ass over to doing Dakar. So it was a big gap. And, so I did enduro racing, enduro off-road racing, I guess, till, I don't remember when I quit, 93. KTM, I was racing for KTM as a factory rider in the 125 class and then 250 class, and then they went bankrupt. And I was a factory rider, and all of a sudden I had zilch, nothing. And then I kind of switched over to Kawasaki, and right in between that, I got injured pretty bad. I kind of smashed my foot up and lost a toe. And then, so I lost a little bit of motivation, but I was making so much money doing photo modeling and doing magazine testing. It was like, my bad habit was riding. I wanted to ride dirt bikes, and that was a much better method to keep this going than racing was for me at the time. Because I wasn't really making that much money racing. I was making a lot more money getting the pictures in the magazine. And my sponsors were super happy with it. And I got to ride a lot of different bikes. I didn't just have to ride like one single thing all the time, and I didn't have to practice too much for it. And so I was like, I can just go trail riding all the time. So I turned into a professional trail rider.
So I see Kelly Anson asked, what years did you do Idaho City qualifiers?
It would have been 1988-ish, 87, 88. It was when I seized my bike on the first day, and it cost me being able to go to my first ISD because it was a 4-day qualifier. And you had to at least finish one day, and my bike seized on the first day. So
why did they start it and you were in the crapper and then you just jumped on it and took off and it seized, or what?
No, it's not exactly like your story. Yeah, it was kind of like I was in a special test pinning it, racing against my heroes, and I was actually beating some of these guys. And I, because people were taking times and like, who's this kid? What's he doing? And they're telling me, and I was just overriding the bike, and it wasn't set up properly, and bingo.
Well, wait, so knowing some things about you for a race of that importance, are you still out there doing your 2-stroke mix where you just go to the tank and you go,
no,
it was about that low, I'll put that much oil in it and throw some gas on top.
It was all done professionally. It was all done.
Then there's another.
Victor wants to know.
Oh, scroll down, there's some other ones. What's down there?
Matt's asleep over there.
Did you have to work separate job, or was racing enduro enough to cover the bills?
So I had, because no, racing was not even close. I started a firewood business. So I worked on my dad's ranch. My dad had a ranch, and I was able to work there and make a pittance. But I found out that I could sell firewood because and cut down the trees I get paid to cut down the trees and then also turn and sell the wood. And I had luckily I lived on a ranch. We had the facilities, the land to store the stuff and do all the things. So my dad was really good at teaching me about business.
You changed tires for racers and stuff, didn't you?
That's how I got to, all of a sudden it was like, yeah, you can go to 6 days. Where do you get the $2,000 or $3,000 to do that? And I had a lot of District 37 clubs that wanted to support the District 37 kid that was getting to go. I had a lot of friends. Bob sent me a check. You probably don't remember that. You probably want it back with interest right now. But Bob, because I sent out letters, and back then I wrote handwritten letters, because that's what you did. I sent out letters to these clubs that, hey, my name is Jimmy Lewis, and I race District 37. And so they a lot of clubs donated, $200, $300, $400, $500, stuff like that. But I would also, at my truck, I'd have a sign up that says, support Jimmy to go to ISD. I'll change your tire for $5 because I needed to practice changing tires. And so, I charge $5 and some people would give you 10 and I made a little bit of money. But
You change tires for $5 now?
no,
Because
for
after you
free-
rebuilt
for
my
free
motor,
now.
I was laughing to some of the guys who said, I don't think I'm going to change my tires anymore. I'm just going to take them to Jimmy and pay him.
So I did. I did have a couple of real jobs because my mom didn't think my firewood business was legit, because it wasn't like a real job. I didn't have to dress up and wear a tire. So I actually worked at an engineering firm where I ran blueprints. I did that. I never really did the fast food thing, but I had a couple of little jobs. But they made so little money. I was just amazed at how little money you could make by doing that. But the firewood, I probably didn't make it didn't seem like much money at the time when you're, using your muscles, but it taught me to go to school. It said,
What'd you get a cord back then?
110 for avocado and 180 or maybe it's 210 for
Is that pickup,
eucalyptus.
delivered and stacked?
Delivered, not
Stacked?
It depend. It was all
A true cord?
a true card, 4x4x8.
Okay.
We had a trailer. I still remember this stuff,
So
but that was some hard ass work, but it was good. It was a good learning experience.
'Cause I did the same thing in high school. We talked about that. I cut firewood.
Yeah.
But then at my first job, though, I was making elastrators, which are for
Well,
cutting off testicles for sheep and steers. They're little rubber rings, and I made the tools that stretched them over the sack. Anyway, so how did you support
we can
that?
never get away from this.
Victor, how did you support that vice? Because dirt bikes are expensive vice. Yeah, the same way you do. Hard work, Victor.
Yeah, it was hard work. So I had to earn half of my first XR80. So $350. I remember this. I wasn't, my parents, they watched the bank account when I had $350 in there. I got the bike. And then the KX80, I don't remember exactly the deal, but there was some sort of a deal. We had to work a certain amount of hours every day after school or something. And, there was always a checkbox that we had to fill out. So my parents really did good at making us appreciate. We never got anything. They handed it to us. I mean, they really did. They made it. If we wanted something, they would make sure we got it, but they made us work for it. We always felt like at the time.
Certain amount of accountability.
At the time when you're doing this, you're thinking, oh, come on, man, that's so much work or whatever. And no, they held to it and we had to do it. So I always worked for something, but it seemed like after the second or third bike, somehow the bikes, I remember, so from Team Green, we got my first 125. We got a used bike from one of their buyback things. And I think at the time we were kind of able to buy them and be able to sell them again for what we bought them for.
So you could buy it, ride it, and then get out of
And
it
then
for the money.
get out
you
of
had
it.
in
Yeah,
there.
I think that's kind of how we were doing it, because I don't ever remember really having to spend a lot of money.
I was doing that with Harleys for a number of years. I had a good relationship with a dealer. I'd buy it and a year later sell it.
Yeah.
There's one other one that scrolled down, but Matt fell asleep there. What was that?
Well, it's okay. Victor said he just used to do what you did, those little clip-on things, but he used his teeth.
Yeah. Kelly Anson, 99 was his first year. Go Paul Neff. What else?
Are we seeing all the chats right now? That's the whole.
This is Jorge.
Yeah.
My name. I used to do that with piglets, bust the balls and clip the teeth. Grandpa used to pay me very little money for that. Yeah.
But like he says right there,
Somebody's
he said he
gotta
used to
do
do
it.
them with his teeth.
People don't know where their food comes from.
So yeah, there's always an interesting story to how you get there and what it was, and it never came easy. The what came easy was that I was passionate about what I was doing, and it didn't seem like work when I was riding motorcycles, and that's what I wanted to do. And the whole time, and everybody goes, well, how did you learn all this stuff? Because I had to work on my own bikes. And from the get-go, from the time we put that CT70 together to when I was porting the cylinder head in my XR80 without my dad knowing, without taking the engine any parts of the engine. I just ported it in the
The
frame.
bike, you know.
And
Put a paper
I've
towel
told the
over
story.
the piston and start grinding.
Wait, I couldn't see the piston, but I read how to port a cylinder in one of the magazines, and so I got one of the tools that looked like a tool in the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I took the carburetor off and I ported it. I have no idea where all those shavings
My
went.
buddy had the MX Yamaha 360, and I had the Enduro, model, and we just measured, and I changed my ports in mine just with a grinder to get them lower. The MX ones were bigger and lower and stuff, and we just ground away on it. Went like a raped ape. It was amazing. It ran.
Yeah, well, mine didn't run very well after I did this because I just put the carburetor back on. I'm sure all those aluminum filings went down into the motor. It kind of still ran. It's a Honda. It was an XR80. It would run. But my brother's bike went so much better. My dad's like, "Well, why is your bike running not so good?" I don't want to tell him I ported it. I don't think he ever knew.
Wish I knew that story before this last weekend.
Hey, where's the regular screen? I don't like this screen.
It's about 8 o'clock here.
No, for some reason this chat isn't showing. This
Oh,
is
that
what
one
I was
isn't.
trying to solve.
Right. So okay.
So that's why we have
Fire
that
the
screen.
producer. Time for a commercial break. 8 o'clock. Come back to Roost or Endo or what?
Okay. We can probably do that. So we are going to take a little commercial break from our sponsors. By the way, we don't just take anybody as a sponsor. So if you think you're special and you want to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Matt, and he can give you the details on that. But support the products that support the show, because this is kind of like, I'm pretty sure if you're in the receiving end of this, you think about how much you just paid for it. And by paying for it, you have to listen to me say Yamaha, Taco Moto, Scott Sports, Climb, DDC, Trail Tech, Fasst Company, Seat Concepts, Bulletproof Designs, and Double Take Mirrors, as well as www.dirtbiketest.com. You can support us by going through our Amazon links and Rocky Mountain MC, actually it's Rocky Mountain ATV MC links on our website. And of course, there's always JimmyLewisOffroad.com. We run off-road riding classes. We have an online riding school for beginner riders. So if you know someone that needs to learn how to ride, you can check it out at JimmyLewisOffroad.com/online courses and learn a few things. It's inexpensive and it'll make you a better rider, because that's what we try to do. So with that, we'll see you on the backside of this break, and here we go.
Living in the back room, sneaking through the back door. Never gonna get me, never gonna get me. Living in the back room, sneaking through the back door. Never gonna get me, get me, get me.
What's up, Moto Buddies? Mike here from Taco Moto Co. What is the Taco Touch? It's the best service in the industry. Virtually 24/7 tech support via email or text, and it's like having a dirt bike doctor on call every day of the year, helping you fix your bike or recommend parts or setups for you. If you've ever received an order from us, you'll know that the Taco Touch extends to our fulfillment, and our orders come with the coolest stickers that you've ever had, buying parts from anybody before, and a handful of root beer barrel candies. All of our Taco Moto Co. branded components come with a no questions asked lifetime warranty, and we'll even extend out the warranty of other manufacturers, OEM, and aftermarket parts where we can, sometimes for life. We test and tune endlessly and exhaustively and obsessively. We're trying to destroy everything that we can before you get your hands on it to look for weaknesses and to improve it, or to make recommendations to the manufacturer. And if it's something that doesn't meet grade, then we don't offer it on the store. Everything that we carry is something that we have personally used, tested, and ridden, and raced, and knows meets the high Taco Touch demanding standard. Go out and get some.
And back.
Welcome back to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Thanks to our sponsors for supporting this show.
Hey, I want to hear where everybody's from right now. I'm curious. You got any international people out there? Where's everybody listening from? Don't crash your car trying to put it in, but I'm just curious.
If you're live, of course, if you're live, you can type it so we can see it. But if you can ever reach back out to us through comments and chats, George had a really good idea. He wants to engage the audience, and he said he wants to send one of his stickers to the farthest person away from us.
Well, that was one idea, and the other idea, and we can ask for some feedback from the audience. What if we got something that we could just network and see how far it could go? Some little thing,
Something that can travel
We have to
around?
mail around, but like somebody comes by here and gets it, and says, "Oh, I'm going to take it up to Oregon or something," and then somebody from Oregon does this.
Yeah. What if they meet other people and then they get in the Tech Talk chat, and then we bring them on in a Zoom.
Yeah.
And they say they have this thing. Like, maybe we should send Mr. Happy. We should sew something onto Mr. Happy, because he don't give a fuck.
We need a little shirt to put on him or a jersey,
Yeah. Send Mr. Happy around the globe.
and just see it, kind of like a message in the bottle thing. But yeah, you just
Oh, there we go.
Take
Les Drake, Australia.
Australia. Okay.
See,
Always get some Mozzies, yeah.
California doesn't even count. It's like a non-existent place. I have to go back there tomorrow. God.
Well, look at the
The only good thing is going to be a lot of wet dirt between here and there, and I'm really hoping to ride a motorcycle. So
yeah, that'd be sweet.
it would be sweet. Do we want to keep talking about myself?
Well, we
I
should
have
do
some
Roost or
follow-up.
Endo.
Let's. Oh yeah, follow-up
you got
questions.
Follow questions. Hard hitting questions.
Because this is a show where I talk about myself, but George has been sober for 10 days.
10 days and an hour and 23 minutes, I
Well-
think. I keep track. I haven't quit, but I'm just scaling it back.
Right, so he's gonna get some number one, and then we're gonna tell you how this fine tequila tastes.
While Matt asks a question.
While Matt asks a question, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So-
did you write these down?
I did actually just write these down. I tend to, when I'm sitting over here versus sitting over there, I can be more of an observer.
Right.
And, I come up with the hard-hitting questions. So I might be asking this question with today's version of a privateer and moto in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think you would have had more financial success if you had stuck with motocross? Because, I mean, those are big names that you're coming in third with. You probably could have made a career being a main event guy if you stuck with it.
No. I don't think so. Because if you think about it, my speed topped out at third place intermediate guy.
Mm-hmm.
It literally, I think it literally topped out there.
Okay.
At the time, I didn't really. You know, if there's anything I could have done to go faster, it'd be better or whatever it was. We tried. We tried to make the bikes better. And that wasn't the problem. It was maybe just me. So I'm scared of doctors.
Right.
So getting hurt for me was never really like an option that I would like let creep into the table. There was a couple times when I did, when I said, screw it, I'm gonna risk life and limb. I always knew what the risks were when I was racing,
Yeah.
but I was so scared of doctors, I kind of didn't as much as maybe other people did. And medical things was a lot different back then. I don't think it was,
Yeah, the science wasn't
size
where
wasn't
it
good.
is
So,
now.
so no, I don't think financially and or career path wise, I don't know if it would have been any better. The best thing I ever did was get into the photo modeling and get in the magazines and do that kind of stuff. And then that opened up a whole new door of actually being a journalist and encouraging me to go to school and learn how to communicate. Right.
Right.
Not that I'm an example of that
Right,
anymore.
WRIGHT or RIGHT.
I'm always right. RIGHT. Yeah. So
Okay.
do not try to spin my words around on me.
Yeah, somebody there saw that tequila might be a little too strong for me, but I can't read the name because
I think it's Victor.
Victor.
So
Okay.
is that what
And
it
he's
that was?
offering
So
me
that
a
was
White Claw.
number
White
one,
Claw.
hard hitting. Yeah.
Off-road trucks. You ever think about off-road?
Yeah, I have thought about off-road trucks, and I've been able to drive some pretty awesome off-road vehicles.
Like mine?
Your Raptor?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that was nice. I really enjoyed driving your Raptor. I
didn't enjoy that ride.
yeah. Why? Because you thought it was going to be expensive?
No, I'm kidding. It was fine.
So over the years, I had people that offered for me to drive their off-road truck, and what I learned very quickly, especially since I had desert racing experience and I'd been to Dakar, and I mean, I even drove a couple of off-road rally cars, and it always came with, well, do you want to drive this? And I'm like, it'd be kind of fun. And I looked at it as work because it's funny for me, driving is a lot more, quote, work, especially when I was younger, than riding motorcycle was. And I don't know how, I didn't enjoy it as much, but it was fun. It's bitching to drive stuff like that. But I probably because I'm a cheapskate, I thought how expensive it was when I crashed it. And I always knew that I needed to drive it to the point where I crashed it a couple times to learn where the limits were because I didn't really know. But every time I got out of those things and they're going like, oh, hey, you can drive this thing pretty good, you know what, blah, blah, blah. So do you got any sponsors? That was always the question. Can you bring some sponsors? And remember,
They were trying to get you into it to bring more cash into it.
right, because they thought somehow I was carrying sponsors, and
They
this
didn't
was,
know you repelled cash, I guess.
no, and this was post cigarettes, pre energy drink.
Oh.
So I was in this vapor where cigarette companies couldn't advertise. They couldn't do this anymore, and that's where my rally money was kind of subsidized from. They thought I had some connection. I didn't have a connection. Some executive at BMW had a connection for my cigarette sponsor money and it wasn't a personal sponsor. It was a team sponsor. And this was before energy drinks started, and that would have been a little bit different thing. But I didn't have any money to bring to the table, so all of a sudden, it didn't matter how well you drove, how much money do you have? And it to me, if I wanted to do it, I wanted to treat it like a job. I wanted to be able to practice and train for it, and break shit and not have it come out of my pocket. And so no, that's why my 4-wheel career went nowhere, because I didn't have one. I drove an Ultra 4 car. I was sponsored by Dave Cole, King of the Hammers, lent me one of his personal spec cars, and we finished the Everyman Challenge at King of the Hammers. And I had a great time, and I realized how much work it was, and I realized how much money I don't have, because I have an idea what it would have cost to fix that car after that race.
Hey, by the way, did Baby Jesus ever
Texas
come?
Jesus? Oh, baby
Baby
Jesus?
Jesus.
No, he's coming like December 25th.
Really? Right around
Yeah,
Christmas
that's when
is
Baby
they're
Jesus is
doing-
coming. Yeah.
Side
So
story.
So Ed Justice is saying you stopped short of the Dakar. You stopped your story just short of the Dakar.
Well, that's
How'd you
for
get into
another
that?
episode.
Oh, we have to do the whole. My
That's
record
another
speaks for
episode.
itself. I don't. I did pretty good, but not as well as I would have liked to.
So
That's
No,
really
he wanted
that's,
to know how you transitioned.
right.
Well, you were
How did-
born,
oh,
you were
how did I
born
s-
a male, right?
Yeah, I
But
was.
anyway, you transitioned.
I was
from
born. I was
motocross
born
to-
an enduro guy, and I switched over to being a Dakar guy.
Yeah.
So it required much bigger nuts.
value,
Dakar.
value your life a little less.
That's what some people would say, but no, I mean you have to actually value it more because you can actually value it a lot less and maybe go farther until you don't.
Right.
And if you look at the amount of very fast, very capable riders that have lost their life at a race like that, yeah, you have to value your life to a certain thing, and even if you value it pretty high, you can lose it.
Right.
Victor wants to know if you're going to the King of the Motos next year. They take a year off, just 1 year off.
Yeah, they had a year where they didn't do it. I haven't really begun my training program for this yet, and it's probably a little late. But I haven't done a whole lot of research on it. But my understanding is it's going to be the week before. It's going to be a whole week before the actual main KOH thing, and I'm going to kind of just sit this one out because I like publicity. I want to be on camera. I want to have a full media team covering what I'm doing all the time, and I don't have
You
that.
were on camera in the King of Motos on my bike because it was funny. They were doing the helicopter shot or something.
Yep.
And the announcer guy was talking on the big screen. I watched it, and here's this guy just, you look just like you're cruising through the
Oh,
desert.
he was
And
he was going, "Hey, look, this guy has a license plate
got
on his
a
bike."
license plate and turn signals. Anybody can enter here, and just ride along.
Yeah, that's
Hey, scroll back up. Where was everybody from, Matt?
Australia.
All over the place.
Eastern PA.
Australia, New Jersey.
Who's from New
California,
Jersey? What's the
Philly.
name? Like,
Hey, what'd you think of that tequila, by the way?
you know what? I've been out of the game so much. It's
Oh,
it's pretty smooth. I mean, it went down.
What?
Okay. It went.
Yeah,
down
you've been
okay.
out of the game too long. Yeah, number one is not getting a thumbs
this-
up in Jimmy World.
The later.
Yeah.
Anyway, not the best, but
So, I mean, I'd love to show up with George's bike. I'll just send it. I put a new top end in George's bike, made a few bucks doing it. But that's a story from last week's podcast.
BC.
You have the
BC.
Oh,
Hey, Jimmy,
in the cave.
you could have the opportunity to do it on a 2012 Husaberg, a bike that has won that event before.
2000. Oh. Oh, Matt's offering a bike now.
Yeah, you have to buy it though.
I'll bet you, Matt, I bet you could work a deal. Because I know a guy who has the die cuts for the graphics skill and that. I know a guy who likes to get his stickers and images out there. We could probably, we'll just go there, like, kind of sight unseen, just go there and show up. We'll have the cool graphics. Me and you, we'll do that race. We'll do it together. We'll just go and we can see who's a better extreme enduro rider.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll ride your bike. You ride one of mine.
yeah.
And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll take one of those RFS bikes that I tune, so I know I can trust the.
It's a really
the
bad. That's a
reliability
bad.
of the
That's a
bike.
really bad idea. That's a. You want something that's a two-stroke, and you want light. I got a. Actually, I sold a. Actually, I have the KTM 200 that set up the first like 7 or 8 King of the Motos courses, so it can ride through the courses. It's been proven. I taught it how.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can ride that, and I'll ride your pile of shit Husaberg.
That's
that-
not pile shit anymore. It's
Is it
just
for sale?
It is for sale.
So
Number one has hints of number one. Number one.
number one.
Number
yeah.
one is hints of
Yeah,
number
not
one.
not my current favorite. So, okay, Matt, do you have any more questions for me?
I do,
Because
but
I don't like to talk about myself, but we're gonna get it out of the
well,
way all in this
I
episode.
did have another question, but you did kind of halfway answered it. I'll ask you anyway. So, like, were you happy with your racing career? Because I feel like you're known more as a media guy, who who now trains Dakar racers. But would you like to have been remembered more as a racer?
Yes and no. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, I mean it makes sense because you said you mentioned you would have liked to have done better at Dakar, but I imagine you're kind of satisfied with the other aspects of your
No,
racing career.
I would be willing to bet if you went and talked to any racer, I would hope that they're not happy with their racing career.
Mhm.
When they look back at it. But at the same time, when you're done, you have to be done, and you have to be happy with it. Because if you did do what you should have done, which is give your best every time, and there's times I can look back, and here's the problem: is I can look back and I can nitpick a lot of stuff, like what I did. Did I train exactly precisely as hard as I could have, or did I really, focus 100% on that? And you can always nitpick it, but I promise you, every time I got on the motorcycle, there was no I'm gonna get second place today. It just that didn't even exist, and being a racer and stuff, and thinking about it and talking, and having interviewed other guys, and this is why I didn't want to interview racers when I was even a journalist, because I don't look back and go, yeah, I was more successful as a journalist. I'm not happy with that either.
Right.
So I'm most happy when I'm just out riding my dirt bike, because then I don't think about all this crap.
Right.
But I think back of, you always want to say, if I did this, if I did that, and you change stuff around. And that at that point, it's like, well, and you can't what if it. That's what you did, and that's what you get. And that's why when I work with racers like you're talking about, and I train and work with guys, when I start working with them, I'm like saying, I'm not going to help you next weekend or the race in a year. I want to know what you want to do in 5 years. And this is something I learned from actually Scott Summers and Fred Bramblett, who, if you look back at Scott Summers' racing career, he did amazing things on the wrong machinery, and everybody told me he couldn't, and they did pretty incredible stuff, and they both went on to be very successful at doing what they do. But that was one thing that Fred always said, and Scott always said, it's not what you're doing today, tomorrow, the next day, next month, next week, next year, next month. Sorry, got those in the wrong order. What are you going to be doing in 3 years and 5 years? Because that's when you're going to get to look back, and all the hard work you're doing now that's not paying off in the next weekend, that can discourage most guys. The guys that are champions and stuff like that, I think they all have something that's built in where they're never satisfied. And then they have the ability to put the work in, and hopefully nowadays it all involves coaching that has you looking a little bit farther forward to make those changes, and to have that work ethic to say, yeah, today sucks. I don't really want to do this, but I don't want to look back and say, I wish I could have done this to make that happen.
Right.
If that's that works for anything. I mean, that works for any sort of, it's not just motorcycle racing, it's any sort of thing. And everybody just wants the instant reward, like they want it tomorrow. And the worst example of that I see these days is, like, you look at like people that are Bitcoin millionaires, or they were. Depends on how they did it.
Right.
You got lucky at that point. If you gambled, and it's just gambling, and people say, "Oh, you gambled when you raced." Hell no, I didn't, because I'm like I said earlier, I was scared of doctors and stuff like that. I know guys that they've been to doctors, and there's a little bit of gambling, but there's a lot of work put in. It's not luck.
I think some of the things you should be proud of are you've kind of kept your relevance in the industry in a bigger picture, like they're your rally training, motorcycle training and stuff. Your name's kind of still out there and everything.
I'd hope so.
You're involved in the industry, but
whatever.
It's not like you just dropped off the face of the earth and never contributed.
I will,
again.
but what I will
We
do
all
this.
will.
I will, but whatever I'm doing, it's like my selfish goal is I want to be able to ride more. I want to be able to go and do kind of cool riding and have the opportunity to test cool motorcycles and talk about them, because I do it now. I enjoy as much like learning about them as communicating about them, but to get to hang out with the guys I get to hang out with and their friends.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm talking about you too. Even if you can't keep up and you have to seize your bike trying to keep up with me, and I know it was just going down the street here, and it was because you had to take a dump. I'm sure everybody's wondering, like, what? We've probably never really told the whole story about how George's bike seized.
I think we went into it last week.
Yeah,
I know it seized.
We go through it again.
This is a thing where it's like you gotta pay attention to the show.
Yeah.
You got to watch the show.
Yeah.
If you don't know what's going on,
So don't go over
We-
it again.
we
Go
have-
back and watch those episodes.
we have a lot of old episodes where we talk about things that are actually, I mean, the shows
Irrelevant.
The shows suck. I mean, granted, the shows.
We got to get through
Why
this.
did you like riding with Jim more? I gotta hear the answer.
Oh, because George is sitting next to me. If Jim was here, I'd tell him the exact same thing, and that way they'll get competitive and they'll try to show him who's a better rider.
I don't have a competitive gene in this body.
Did you won a race at Glen Helen?
Yeah, I got a gold medal.
Gold medal at
Bigger
Glen
than
Helen.
any of those puny things. It's out in the trailer. I should have you go get it. I should have worn it.
So
I think it's actually chocolate inside if I feel the outside.
really, oh, if it's chocolate, you probably would have bit into it and eaten already.
Did that to a Christmas tree ornament once.
Okay, hey, Bulletproof Designs has really awesome guards for your 2023 model KTM type products. So that's KTM's, Huskies, and Gas. So if you're looking for foot pegs, radiator guards, things to protect that chain guide on the swing arm, maybe even, and I hate to say this out loud, a front disc rotor protector. Bulletproof Designs has the stuff you need in billet aluminum. Check out their website today. Tell them Dirt Bike Test sent you. So
Yeah.
you want to get into this Rooster Endo?
Probably ought to get it done. Hopefully all these guys are online anxiously. They're just listening to all this BS, trying to hear their name and see their bike on the screen.
Guess what? GK Austoni or something like that says, love it. The show froze on. The show sucks. Well, it's not on our end because we're transmitting really good. We've got a thing here that says our live stream is excellent.
It did freeze for a brief moment.
Shut up, Matt. Matt was actually doing a really good job over there, mostly because he was asking questions about me.
I want to know where Jukakaji is from. I mean, is he from?
It sounds like a Nordic country, doesn't it?
I'm thinking like European, like a.
Well, that's Nordic, European.
Well,
like
yeah,
Iceland,
whatever.
Sweden,
Yak off.
all that stuff. Yak off. SoCal. We're sorry.
Nice. Okay.
Hey, we're gonna get to Rooster Endo right now, but we're gonna make you suffer through the Bulletproof Designs
Product of the week.
product of the week, even though they didn't really ask to
That's not
support that
bulletproof,
thing.
is it?
No, they're sponsoring the segment. That's why I just did their
Oh.
read. Bulletproof Designs does reads. They do make foot pegs, by the way. They have new foot pegs.
The foot pegs are good. Have them on the YZ.
Yeah. Here, since we're shills for our advertisers, and all we do is just repeat the advertising slang over and over again and just drill it down your throat. No, these companies actually support us because they understand what we do, they like what we do. There's a lot of companies making foot pegs. Bulletproof Designs makes foot pegs. Fasst Company makes foot pegs. Do we have any other sponsors that make foot pegs? Any of our sponsors? I'm thinking IMS used to help us out.
Mm-hmm.
They make foot pegs. Black Dog Cycle Works makes foot pegs.
Yep, got some.
There's a lot of different companies that make foot pegs. Because you know why so many companies make foot pegs? It's a great modification to do to your bike, and all of them are a little bit different. Promo Billet makes foot pegs.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about all of them. You can ask me about all of them. What I say publicly is generally what I say privately. I don't, but I'm very careful about what I say publicly because I want to make sure that I'm not doing a disservice to any of our sponsors. But at the same time, I'm being careful about, things. But I would never be dishonest. I couldn't say something. So these are Fasst Company sponsor, by the way, Impact foot pegs. And so the Impact design, it has an elastomer, kind of like the flex bars. And I am the #1 supporter of Fasst Company flex bars known to man. Like, they make Bad Forks good. They make it so Jimmy can ride tomorrow. They do all those things. The foot pegs, I actually tested. What's the other company that makes the Mako? Has a foot peg as well. And the reason I bring up Mako is because they have a similar design, not a similar design. They have another design where they're actually trying to use an elastomer, and that's what this foot peg does. It basically has an elastomer between the main plate and the bottom plate to try to reduce vibration, impacts, different things on the foot peg. And I remember
They're changeable.
they're interchangeable. Correct. I
You
don't
pick
know how
your strength or something.
I don't know how interchangeable the ones on the Fasst Company ones are. I know they're different colors because, like, I don't know if the elastomers are the different colors and the elastomers
They're probably different
are
squishability.
different. Yeah, squishability. That's a great word for this.
Like that.
When I first tested them, they had a lot of different elastomers that were different colors and they were different squishability. But I haven't done enough research because I'm just going to talk organically about this. The main reason I got these foot pegs, these are for my Tenere, is because they didn't make them, and I said, Cole, I need bigger foot pegs for my Tenere, and I like his stuff. This foot peg, aside from the elastomer, and I'm not saying it's in a bad way, everything about this foot peg is super awesome. It's got grip. It's super strong. I've whacked these things and
It's real
smacked
light,
them
too.
on
It's
stuff.
not like it's,
It's crazy lightweight for
pounds.
how heavy it looks. And it has this elastomer in there. And when I did all the elastomer testing on any foot pegs, I didn't feel the elastomer. And I couldn't figure it out exactly. But here's what my conclusion was. My boot does the work. In a lot of my boots, I run insoles in them. So I run a more cushy insole in it. So what this is doing doesn't make a big difference. But net, this is a great foot peg. And what I know about elastomers, if you have some sort of vibration issue and it comes through the foot pegs and the flex bars don't do the vibration as much as some other bars, this should, and it could, but I couldn't.
You know what I'm
necessarily
seeing
feel
here
it.
too is you have an opportunity here. They probably, I don't know if they thought of this, but you can have this idea if you're out there listening. You can adjust this for height. If you could put something thicker in there, thinner, you could change the height of your pegs a little.
Yeah, but it would actually at that point it would change the way that the elastomer responds. And
But if you had something other than if you had something pretty stiff in there,
we tested some thicker ones.
but if you had something that didn't squish,
Oh.
and just a plate, you
another
could change
plate.
the height to this.
Oh.
Because like I noticed, I got the black
have
dog
Jim
ones.
have Jim run that idea up to Cole. That's actually a brilliant idea.
They're
If you could make the deck height lower and then have the adjustability.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and just some different pegs. We'd have to
Just
definitely
raise it and
durability test that because then all of a sudden when you really start wagging these. But so these foot pegs came for my Tenere 700. They were modified a little bit. They're basically from a different brand, but they were able to modify them. And if you're looking for a way to control your motorcycle, foot pegs. And Fasst Company makes some really awesome ones. The elastomer probably helps certain people for certain ways for sure, but a good foot peg is a good foot peg, and these are good foot pegs. So I'm going to put them on my Tenere, and I'm going to go rip around on them. So that's our product spotlight.
There we go.
okay.
Now we're going to move on to the other segment brought to you by Taco Moto. That's tacomoto.co. Mike Spurgeon likes to help everybody out with their needs, and he can sell you any product that will address an issue for your motorcycle. Go to tacomoto.co to find out what it is.
Let's
You're showing me this glass
put up-
is empty.
let's put up Bill O'Neill's motorcycle.
So the way Roost or Endo works is
you gotta
you
explain
send us a picture of your bike. You tell us the year, make, and model. That's important because we don't like to guess what it is. We like a quality photo, and then we will discuss it on the show and go from there. So
There's no real criteria to win. It just depends how everybody feels. Here,
Yeah.
I have
there's
feelings.
no strict rules, So
No, the best.
we can't be
the,
sued because one guy didn't win and he had I put.
Oh,
this,
they'll
this,
try.
and this on.
The best bike, the one that we just rave over that totally roosts, may not win. It's the bike. I always say it's the bike that gives us the most entertainment.
Yes.
Is that the
This
correct
This is
answer?
accurate, especially. Yeah.
Okay, well Bill O'Neill, you got him up there?
Oh yeah.
Hey, if you're in the chat, Bill, let us know because we always like to know. We have actually made the winner the first person in the chat that chimed in. Let us know. So
Bill
but
O'Neill
that won't
says-
happen tonight.
This is my second entry this year, but the first one was in a living room. You allow multiple entries, I guess, just not once you win or what?
You can enter multiple times, but you can only win once.
2022 125 XC bulletproof designs radiator and rear disc guards, TM design work, full skid plate, KTM power parts, swing arm guards, Decal Works, which I guess that's a company.
Yeah.
DECAL.
Decal Works. Yep.
Decal Works number plate, decals, and blued pipe from Dent Repair.
Oh,
Picture taken.
No.
Oh, he gave up his location.
no,
Northeast
blue-
Pennsylvania.
no. Blue pipe should be from you holding that thing wide open and making it sing a song.
Glow.
Yeah, glow.
Do you ever see those glow?
Yes.
Glow. Yeah, when you at
Well,
night when you're really
usually a 4-stroke if you let it sit around and idle. But if there's any air running across it, they don't really glow. And I've never seen a 2-stroke pipe glow except for on a dyno. So Bill, I have a question. He has a lot of
chat.
He has a lot of Bulletproof Designs products on there. I like that. I like it when you support our sponsors. And your last photo was taken in the living room, so you've increased that. Look at the fall colors behind this super awesome looking bike. I'll let you know. I would love to come and rip that bike at like a Hare Scrambles. That thing looks like the Hare Scrambles fun machine, but there's a very ambiguous shadow
Over
that's
his
covering
disc
a
guard.
very. It's you know how when like rappers are doing their raps and stuff and they're always grabbing their nuts to draw attention. Well, you parked your bike in a very peculiar area to distract attention from something that I'm a little sensitive to. And since you said Bulletproof Designs, they make those super awesome front disc protectors, which do we have a question about that we're supposed to get to?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
But yeah, let's just get through this naturally, and then we'll see. Where
Naturally? See where
organically,
and naturally.
but don't want to force it.
I'm a little worried what you're covering up there, bro. But this looks like a sweet motorcycle, and it fully roosts. Like nothing better than nothing better than a 125. And this is our first 125
In a very long time.
in a very long time. Okay, that sounds good. This is the first one in a very long time.
He's saying he's not hiding a disc protector.
Oh, yeah, but the picture indicates differently.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But that roost for me too. I love that bike.
Yeah, wouldn't you like to ride that bike, George? You'd bog it down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not a small bike guy. You make those little bikes sing. I'm not.
You just imagine how quickly you could seize that if you took a dump
Yeah,
and had to
no
catch
kidding.
back
Got
up.
on that and just pinned it.
Yeah.
Imagine how much fun it'd be to have that bike.
Full roost in that one, except for the question about the disc protector.
I'm just gonna read these.
Imagine how
tonight.
fun that bike would be today.
I'll
in the
comment
sand.
if something really blows my skirt
Today?
off. How about?
Today in the sand. Like that. Oh.
Okay, you got.
Actually, what are you doing tomorrow morning? We should go. I have my 120. My 125's here. It never leaves. It's just haven't ridden it for a while. Like you could take your Husaberg out. I could roost you on my YZ 125.
Husaberg has been cleaned for sale.
Oh,
I don't want to take her back out.
I'll take that YZ 250 FX. We'll go out in Yamaha. You will blue crew it up.
Now that sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah.
Put up Caitlin Moore. Caitlin.
Oh boy.
Hard to tell if that's just leaned over on a trail or that's where it ended up after a very bad get off.
That's a good question. Can I have the photo?
Yeah,
have it in
it's
your
hard
hand
to
so I can-
see. So Caitlin Moore, 2022 KTM XC300, purchased in May, out of the crate now, with 85 hours on it.
So if you're not watching this and you're listening to this bike is perched on the edge of a cliff. And the thing is I know that this is not a tilted photo because trees go straight up and down. See that one tree? Mm-hmm. And so this bike is hanging on a handguard, we'll call it. Hanging on a handguard on some slick rock. And if the bike is blocking the trail, yeah, the trail is very thin and narrow. It's on the edge of a cliff. So keep going about the bike.
Okay, Trail Tech Endurance 2, Trail Tech radiator guards along with the Trail Tech fan wired with shut-off time delay. Bulletproof Designs TPS cover, Polysport swing arm guards, and Armadillo pipe guard. S&S skid plate along with the S&S fork guards and Achirby engine guards. KTM Enduro lift straps, front and rear for those tough situations like this. The picture shows KTM Kickstarter installed just in case of any starting issues. Saved me twice already.
Well, it wouldn't save him here. If his
No, it'd be
battery
pretty hard
died
to
right
kick
now,
there.
yeah, he wouldn't be able to kick this thing here. So I'm kind of curious about how this bike got in this position. I like the fact that it's in this position.
I have a theory.
I like that he sent us a picture. Matt has a theory. Please
Wait,
explain.
but there's
So-
more.
Oh, let's get to the more then.
Got the Circra Pro Bend KTM Sycra KTM handguards and a Chirby KTM LED headlight, also with shut-off
Do you hear
time
him
delay.
mispronouncing a chirby?
A Cherby's.
A Chirby.
Chirbies.
A?
Like A, and a,
A
chair.
Chirby's.
A chair like a chair you sit in, and bees like bees buzz around. A chirbies. They don't pay us enough.
A service. A
service.
service.
Good. Go ahead there.
The cherry on top is the best part of the smoker, the sound. I got an FMF Turbine Core 2.0, so I don't light the woods on fire. Pictures. Oh, gave up the spot. Should I even say it?
Do not say exactly where it is. Go blank blank.
Anyway,
picture is-
Washington. I'll give up that. It's Washington.
Yeah.
Caitlin Moore.
Yeah, I did. So did the bike end up here, or is it part of a trail?
So I'm pretty sure this is at the peak of a trail. Rode up to the peak, laying the bike up on the hill, and then snapped the photo.
Well, how is he going to turn it around? Is he going to pull it back down?
I think just pull it back down.
Well, he didn't get to the peak because the peak would be up to the right. He would have stayed on the hill.
Caitlin Moore, is that a guy or a woman? Or can we ask?
I'm not sure.
Can't ask.
You
Okay.
can ask. You can ask.
I'd just say, how do they get it out of there or up there?
There's another photo in the email that kind of shows that it is just like the end of a trail,
End of a trail.
but still doesn't answer the question of how do they get it back. It must just be pull it back.
It's a neat picture, but it's not a picture of the bike.
I
But it's a neat picture.
bike sounds okay, but I can't see it, so I don't know. It's
Roosts for me.
it does no for me. It doesn't because like he didn't even try to get it in the sun. Like he tried to put some light on the damn photo. It could have been a better photo. So Endo, because I like to ride, and right now, if I put my bike there, like in that spot, I'd be kind of bummed because I can't ride it anymore. It looks like a nice place to get there, but I'm not there with it.
Kurt Brooks next.
Kurt Brooks.
Okay, it's a 2022 KTM 500 EXC, cone valve forks and track shock setup by Matt at Inside Line Moto. Vortex ignition, desmogged, FMF 4.1 titanium slip-on, Trailtech Voyager probe.
You know the Inside Line Moto, ILM? It's almost like Climb without a K. And speaking of Climb, one of our sponsors.
A Cherby's, that's a proper.
Yeah,
This
Cherby's.
is
A
a name,
Cherby's,
right?
yeah.
A Cherby's 3.1 tank. Spec bolt, nickel works, bolt kit for the frame and motor.
Whoa.
Spec bolt nickel works. Bolt kit for the frame and motor. So he got a bolt kit for it.
Yeah, it's probably like, either titanium or nice plated stuff. Yeah.
CV4 radiator hoses, Hinson Racing clutch cover, Raptor titanium pegs, BRP submount Scott setup with SXF billet clamps, Moose flag hand guards, ARC levers, dirt trick sprockets, heated grips, ram mount mirror, sick ass racing light switch, Baja Design Squadron XL light, bulletproof designs, rear disc caliper guards, radiator guards, chain guide stiffener,
Yep.
sick ass tail tidy, seat concept seat,
It better known as the titty tail.
tidy tail, yeah.
Titty tail.
Seat concept seat, AXP plastic skid plate front, a Cherbis plastic rotor guard, a Cherbis plastic frame guards, giant loop Mojave saddlebags, Avic custom graphics.
Did he say muffler? FM1? Titanium slip-on.
It has half of the FMF sticker.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at it because
Looks like it has a weird end cap on it. Or something.
it looks a little different, and it looks like a small opening, which, good on him for not just running the bazooka pipe out the back.
Yeah.
Because in reality they run better with the smaller opening. In my experience, at least you look at the ground he's riding on there, not a ton of traction, and you got to be careful about this kind of stuff. But is there anything else you could have modified on this bike? Silence? The crickets?
Recluse.
Recluse.
Those look like
That's-
OEM plastics.
That's a pretty.
Looks like he's riding it and taking it some places and
That's
doing
a
some
pretty.
stuff with
That's
it.
a pretty well set up chariot. He's got all the stuff on it, and the good thing about his picture is it shows the bike, and he managed to keep the whole thing in the shade so the light's actually okay, so we can see it. He's got his helmet in there and everything. He's got his goggles. He did his sponsors proud.
Yeah.
And he put all the stuff in it. I'm going with
the goggle strap facing the camera too.
Yeah, I'm going with the Roost on this one. He's checked off all the boxes. I think this would be a pretty good bike. And let's see, he's got pretty much everything. Yeah, everything. He's got this whole. There's nothing left to be done to this motorcycle.
Yeah.
If you're really wanting to modify the crap out of your bike, and the only thing you could have done better is throw some flex bars on that thing. Fasst Company flex bars. Does he have stock foot pegs? It looks like it. For that kind of bike, when I'm setting my bike up like this also, I run adventure-sized foot pegs on my KTM 500 on my, quote, rally / long range bike. So a couple mods he could do. He could use some mods. I can see that. Kirk, good job. Inside Line Moto. Those guys listen to the show in their
Pull up Grant.
in their shop while
Gun
they're
trip.
tuning everybody's bikes up down in Orange County. So shout out to Inside Line. Thanks for listening, guys. I know they usually have to turn it down because they don't want anybody to know that they listen. Because I wouldn't
Right.
either. It's okay though. This
Grant-
is Grant's photo.
Yeah.
You know
Grant Gun
how I sent you that picture of my cat?
I've got a lot. Narrow it down. I got a lot of pictures of your cat you sent me.
Well, the ones from behind, where she's saying
yeah.
how much she likes you.
Licka.
I'm having problems with this photo.
I can see that as we're trying to watch this show.
Okay.
That's the best spot for it, right over the top of my face, Matt, because I'm the host and just block
Let's
me
talk
out.
about it. Grant's bike. It's a 2017 Husqvarna FE250. Mods include lowered suspension by the previous owner, recent new brake lever, and more recent cut kickstand.
Right.
Future upgrades include raising the bike to stock height. I kind of like that. Basic guy, bought a used bike, gonna put it back to stock and ride it, I hope.
I can barely. It's like I like to look up anybody's muffler. You know what I mean? I want to know your license plate number. As a former law enforcement officer, you like this photo?
Well, where's that
You can get an
plate
idea.
from? That seems kind of Euro-Canadian or something.
Man,
Is that a big
Looks-
plate
it
or is it a small bike?
it looks a little BC-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know why he's pointing down where he can't go. Like, is there a trail that he's blocking the road with? But I
Got a
can't.
I don't like the OEM mirror.
Yeah, I was going to say factory
Yeah,
mirror waiting to be
Don't
out.
like the OEM
Back when they had
mirror.
a square mirror.
Problem with that is you don't just break the mirror off.
It breaks
It
the
breaks
perch.
the perch, yeah.
This bike could definitely use some help. So can his photography skills, but I mean, we don't
So
expect
maybe
you to
he
be.
needs a $100 taco.
It could be. I mean, we do not need everybody to be a professional photographer, but you know how? Okay, so this is going back to my former life when I was a photo model, and I don't like talking about myself, but I'm using this as a way to, help everybody out. You see these awesome photos, like let's say the brochure photos, advertising photos, stuff that's like just. There's a lot of thought and work that goes into it, but there's a few simple things that are done. They actually look at the background, and I'm looking at this photo here. It's a really nice background. That'd be really good. And if you would have just turned the bike like 76 degrees back in, going the other direction, I'm not talking about a cap heading. I'm just talking about pivoting it that much to catch a little bit of light. And then shot some, especially with that dark background. If we would have got down lower, that light would have caught the bike and it would have lit it up into the background. We would be able to actually see what it is. And then I would have bitched about at that point, he had a nice photo. I bitched about the tires he had on it because they looked like a little closed block, not really good for the aggressive off-road riding that you expect to be doing, and other things that I can't see. Make sense?
Yep.
Endo.
Okay.
Endo based on
This
the
is the
photo.
last one. We
Do
got a
you-
close look at this.
Do you agree with
bike.
that?
I'm here just to read. I'm not.
No, you're
to
you're
agree.
judgmental.
No, I'm not judging.
You're not judging this
No,
one.
I'm
That
not
means
gonna.
George says it ends
You
up.
guys
It's
can't.
Endo.
Endos. Oh, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Chiming in. Know how this thing works. Wow. I want to go there. That looks spectacular.
We saw this bike recently.
Yep. This is from Sandeep Teja. Hopefully that's right. Teja Teja.
You met him.
I know, but I didn't know how to pronounce his last name. I just looked.
He was
at a
in the
bike
class the
and
whole time. What'd
I
you
know.
just, hey, you? The whole class, you just went, hey, you?
Yeah, I don't. I look at form. I don't look at names. 2022 KTM 500 EXC, a Get ECU, Graves slip-on exhaust, Baja Design Squadron headlight, Moto-minded dash, Fastway Evo foot pegs, cone valve forks, track shocks.
This cone valve forks track shocks thing is pretty popular.
Yeah.
It's almost like the other bike, but not as much stuff. Close.
I don't know. This thing, looking at it, I mean, we saw it. He was at the school. That bike looked like it had everything thrown at it.
So his list.
I mean, there were knobs and dials and rheostats and all kinds of stuff on the handlebars.
Yeah, it had a lot of stuff. Why is the handlebar turned away from us? He's not hiding a disc guard, is he?
No, I think
don't
I
think
see
so.
the whole disc.
I'm not seeing it,
No,
Right.
it didn't. I
but
don't
it is
think had.
suspicious.
It's suspicious. I don't know
suspicious.
why everybody's doing this to us with this whole turn it away. His bike wasn't too loud, was it?
No, I
No.
don't think so.
No, that's good. Because I know that sometimes the Graves are just open bazooka mufflers and stuff, but this had this one, like I said, didn't stand out as being that loud. If that was the one in the class, which I appreciate. I mean, less sound does not equal more ground, but it makes Jimmy happy. So he's got his iPhone mounted up on there. Double take mirror? Did you say double take mirror?
No, his definitely had more add-ons than what's listed here on.
He's
that.
got a Chirby's tank on it. I think it has a Scott steering stabilizer. I don't know.
It did have a Scott's at the class, and it looks like it's there.
Wait,
Right.
His
It
bike
was-
had different colored fenders in the class, didn't it?
I don't think so. It was his Scott's. The low speed was pretty stiff. I meant to say something about that later, but
Oh, I never rode the bike or touched it, so I didn't notice. He has a pipe protector on this thing.
that's for his luggage. Yeah.
No, but he has the pipe protector there, but he also has the P3 one that's on the front of the header. There's a lot more stuff. Maybe he was limiting the amount of stuff, so we think he need more.
Could be.
Did this bike start out as a 6-days? Because it does have the triple clamps on it as well.
Interesting.
Don't know. I think we're being deceived here with the amount of
Could be.
information that's been delivered at this point. I hate it when they give us too much.
I know he was mad because he
Yeah.
sent it in last show and didn't get up. Or
That's
something.
on Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all come in the order that they go in. Do we need more, Matt?
We do need more, so go ahead and send them to me at Matt@JimmyLewis.
They might get on the next show.
Still didn't get my my
send me-
video in.
You guys send me an edited down version, and then we'll be right on.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this I like Roost. Roost
The picture makes it.
picture really
nice.
helps. Picture definitely helps. Good. That looks like a nice place. I kind of know where it's at. It's a good place. I like seeing all the water that I'm gonna drink later in the photo. Actually, we get ours out of the well, so it doesn't really count. Anyways, thanks everybody for doing the Taco Moto Rooster Endo segment. This is the time when now George gets to decide who.
Oh no, I wasn't. I wasn't part of the judging. You guys got that.
No, this is the segment where George decides who gets to Roost or Endo and who. Well, he already told you who he was so indecisive. Since he was so indecisive, you get to decide who wins the $100 from Taco Moto.
Oh, I do. We'll give it to the guy whose bike's facing away off into the distance on the Husky or whatever it was.
Is that what you want to do?
It seems like he could use it.
It seems like he could use it.
Yeah.
George speaks. This is what we do.
So Graham,
Grant gun trip. You win the $100
There
from
we go.
Taco Moto. Yeah, George, good job.
Yeah. So the news cycle actually today is all about the election and everything.
Oh, we're having one of those.
So I didn't know if you
I
wanted to
voted
go into
already.
politics.
I voted already.
Go into politics, but let's put up the latest results, Matt. Thought I saw
Oh,
'em
you
in there.
didn't
got
say latest results.
Does Matt have
latest,
this?
the latest maps.
I just pulled up a map.
So
really
where
quick.
are we yet? So you got it?
My problem is in like maps and stuff like that. I know every place I've been and I understand maps and stuff like this, but like red or blue, I don't know the difference.
Well, Honda, I think, is represented by the red.
Honda,
Blue is
yeah.
Yamaha dominated. So
Right.
So we
Looks like
live in a Yamaha.
we're in the
in
blue
a-
cruise
in
zone.
the blue cruise zone, we've got Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Minnesota,
one
Wisconsin, Illinois,
one district in
Michigan,
Nebraska.
Georgia,
How come? How
Virginia.
come? How come most of the
Is
states-
Georgia a swing state? So could they maybe go KTM, Honda, or Yamaha? What do you think?
How come we don't
Jimmy?
have any? How come we don't have any orange or white or other colors?
Well, those are the extremes. Those are the radicals.
they don't count.
Well, they're just the radical representations of each of those parties.
In the old days, you know, at the motocross tracks and stuff, it was kind of like when I grew up racing and stuff. It was Honda, Yamaha, and then Kawasaki came along. So we need some green states in there.
Oh, yeah. Green.
Yeah, and then there's Suzuki, which is kind of different. Hey, you know they released a brand new V-Strom.
I saw some news flash.
Brand new news
700
flash
or
about the
something?
V-Strom. It's a V-Strom 850. But the funny thing is, like, the reason they call it a V-Strom is because it had a V twin motor, and now it's a parallel twin, a 270
But
firing
they still
crank.
call it a V-Strom?
Yeah, they still call it a V-Strom, but so now they have the new V-Strom that's a parallel twin that fires at 270, kind of like the Yamaha Tenere. And guess what Honda introduced today? The Transalp 750.
That was the one I read.
Right. So that's a 270-degree firing. It's the same motor that's in the Hornet. You know, their 750-ish motor. But yeah, some new adventure bikes coming down the pipe. The EICMA show is going on right now over in Europe, so that's where a lot of this stuff is kind of popping up on the radar. That's just like the elections, I think. It's like new
So-
motorcycles or elections. It's all the same. It's all the same. I voted. I tried to pay attention to my voting. I think I did a good job. I hope I picked winners. It's like a contest, right, where you try to pick the ones that win.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
That's the way we all want to do this.
That been working out for
Did
you,
you vote,
has it?
Matt?
I vote as soon as early voting opens.
Got
I
it.
go and I vote and I bust it out.
You went to the election place.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh, huh.
That's good. I just do it by mail, but
Me
so that
too.
maybe
I
doesn't
travel
count.
too much.
So hey, I hope everybody voted. And the reason you should vote is because if you don't vote, then you can't complain. That's all. That's
Vote to complain.
We always like to complain, and if you voted, then you can complain about the stupid shit that the politicians that you elected.
So you are turning this political conversation. I want to talk about dirt bikes.
Oh, you just wanted to turn the tables on me.
I wouldn't say that was a
You
political.
sound like a politician at a debate. You wanted to like next time you're not going to get to interview me. I'm not going to allow you that luxury anymore. You're going to have to debate me. That's on your next appearance on Tech Talk
I
Taco
picked the
Tuesday.
topic. That might be kind of fun to have a debate.
Right. Okay. So that's the next time George shows up. It's after our December class.
George, you said
I'm
you
not
have-
qualified to debate on motorcycles, so we'll have to pick a different topic.
Oh, I'm so good to debate RFS carbs right now.
I don't know. It was all going on in the background. I can debate like KTM 2-stroke motor rebuilds right now quite well.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
we can have a debate about if the TPI is good or not.
Then the TBI or whatever.
If it objectively makes the bike better, we should.
The TBI.
Well,
The new one?
was that a question in our chat?
No, I just know that the TPI is
What,
good.
what were those questions you sent me? Let's go through those really quick.
Okay, yeah, let's bang through the questions. Sorry for everybody that sent questions in and wanted them answered. We're just going to
You
get to
just
them at
got
the
to
end of the
watch the
show,
whole
but this is
thing.
the way it works. But this show
Let
is
me
brought
read
to you by, again, Double Take Mirrors. If you want a discount code, let us know. Bulletproof Design, Seat Concepts. Did you hear how complimentary John was of my Seat Concept seat on my Tenere 700?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
Big John had a Tenere. He sold it for more than he bought it for, but that's John. He rode my bike, and he's like, man, your bike kind of feels small. And I'm like, couldn't figure out why. And it was because the handlebars were rolled back just a little bit. He moved them back. He said, okay, now it's normal. He goes, man, this seat. And then he handed me his brand new Husky Rockstar Edition 300, whatever. Ride this because it had a really stiff, horrible seat on it because he wanted to ride my Tenere. Fasst Company, Trail Tech, DDC, Climb, Scott Sports. Check out the amplified goggle lens because I like it. Taco Moto, who sponsored Roost Endo. tacomoto.co, and of course Yamaha Blue Crew. We only talk about Yamahas in this show, so what's our first question?
Sean Elliott, thank you for another great show. Enjoyed discussion on the XR600R. I have owned several. One of my XR600Rs had the HRC 628 kit installed. If Jimmy had a choice of stock versus 628 kit, which one would he ride?
I would ride a Yamaha XT600.
Come on, you
Blue Crew.
shill.
No, hey, I had a Yamaha XT600 as my first real dual sport bike.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I didn't just jump on because they came on the show. I've been on the Yamaha for a long time. But in all honesty, the 628 kit, I didn't like the way the 628 ran. So the bike we won the Baja 1000 on was a 600. It was a 600 with a high compression piston, a ported cylinder head, and the 628 or the HRC cam inside of it. That was the setup. Because when you went to 628, I don't know what happened other than the bike didn't rev out as good. It got hotter, and running it hard, it got slower.
It's just a bore, right?
Yeah, the 620 is just a bore. And so yeah, we ran a 600, and I liked it better.
Was the 628 just a bore to ride?
No, it was way more exciting. It's just kind of like all these things, like these guys are getting these ECUs and pipes and all this stuff like that. When you ride it and you gas it and you go, oh yeah, but you actually ride it and you want it to work.
Yeah.
Doesn't do the same kind of work. It makes you work more. I like the 600 to work better.
Okay, this is on the 2023 CRF 450F Impression.
Is that a Yamaha? No, just kidding. It's a Honda.
No. Bobby Blenio. I'll have to slap ya around a little. Great opening to the vid. What were the clicks when you went to adjust the forks, in or out, and how many? Also, what did you do to the stock high-speed clicks? Thanks for the info. I'm getting this bike, and any info will be appreciated. Thanks.
Bobby, yo, bro, let me get back at ya with this info. www.dirtbiketest.com. Search CRF 450F, and I'm pretty sure that we will give you the numbers at some point in the impression, the written one, the one that you have to read. You can't just watch it like on YouTube, because at the time we had to bust the video out really quick, and the kids that helped bust it out weren't really into paying attention to how many clicks we went here and there.
But that's all very personal to the rider, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And I don't know necessarily. It's kind of if you're gonna get one, set the sag, adjust the ride. Well, get one, ride it for an hour. Then set the sag, adjust the ride height, and then go ride it and tell me what you feel. It could be the best bike you've ever ridden, or it could have some faults. Hey, the front forks are a little stiff, or the back end feels stiff, or I want it to do this or that. Come back at me with some good info, and I'll give you some guidance on which direction to go. I mean, the clicks that we set it to, between me and Trevor, and you rode it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you ride that bike?
I rode it for
And you,
a little bit, actually.
yeah, and you remember hearing me and Trevor argue about, not argue, we discussed, but argued about, like, Trevor went one direction that seemed kind of counterintuitive, based on his
Yeah.
weight, and I went another direction based. It was counterintuitive based on
Based on the weight.
the weight, but
Ev-
that's what worked better. And I tried Trevor's setting, and he tried my setting, and we came back and agreed to disagree, and it worked for both of us. So this is the thing about when we start talking about like, oh, give me the clicks.
The magic bullet.
Bobby,
map that works
Bobby,
for you.
what's Bobby?
Bobby Blanio.
Bobby Delaney. I don't know if you're a 150-pound twig or a 260-pound monster. How can I give you suspension settings?
Right.
I don't know if you're a pro like me or a pro like George. you know, so I don't know.
But still, I mean, it's not.
It's not one click
I see
fits
where
all.
he's coming from. He wants a magic bullet, thing.
Everybody does.
Everybody does. And until I really started hanging out with you and starting to experiment or not be afraid to screw around with that stuff
Right.
and try it. But it takes some work to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, work.
Well,
Pull a
it's time
screwdriver out.
time doing it though. You have to ride it. You have to really think about it. You have to be conscious of it. You got to ride through the same area, maybe doing the same things. It's not just something.
Hey, Bobby,
that's-
if any of this stuff confuses you or it confuses anybody on this show, and you just come in the chat one of these times, 7:00 every Tuesday night. Come into the chat, live chat, and ask, hey, how should I go about setting up my bike? That will take me a good hour to answer. We could need an hour of this show.
But you got
answering
those videos, I think, up, don't you?
We have some that explain this stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Dirtbiketest.com.
Todd Kelly, Jimmy. So the infamous front, quote, useless disc rotor guard. You wanted a picture of one organically gouged, and after washing my bike today here in southern Arizona, I inspected my guard, and lo and behold, it's done its job. Certainly nothing like the rear, but it's definitely saved a bent rotor. I'd agree that in most terrain,
And
they are just unnecessarily unsprung weight, but here in the super rocky mountainous terrain, it's good protection to have. So let's see it.
We have the photo up on the site, so if you're watching this, you see the photo of this disc guard, this nice bulletproof designs, billet disc guard, anodized nice and orange, so you can see the scratches.
Well,
And the scratches are on the very bottom. Man,
Outside.
I want to see one way more scratched up than this.
So here's what I could surmise from this is if that disc guard wasn't there, that rock may have never hit anything.
this is
Deflected the bike or anything. It would have just went right by because
I'm looking-
that's at least probably a half inch away from where the rotor is on that outside edge.
Right. So there's some room in there, and yeah, it may have hit it, and it depends on were you up on a rock, and you imagine be up on a rock and sliding down on one of those slot rocks, like it just falls in between it. But no, I want to see one that looks like.
Destroyed.
Look at your rear disc guard, by the way. Look at that, and then understand the difference here. I'm not gonna give you up this
See,
one.
if that was my bike, that would be from the toolbox in the back of the truck that slid over against it when I was driving down the road. But hey, you got to thank him for paying attention, taking a picture. You asked for that.
No, I
You
did
said-
ask for that. I want to see.
asked for it. He
I have
sent in a
one.
picture and he
the
did
the
it.
one that I originally started all this complaining about. I have it. It's in my shop. It's up in the thing, and it's way more scratched up than that. And like I said, I took it off the motorcycle because I didn't like what it was
And Todd,
doing.
you got to know that if you're going to do this in play, you're going to get made fun of. So
I like Todd. Todd's
Yeah.
definitely a supporter of this show,
But-
and a good job. Send us an email. So we're just going to see if we can get you a Bulletproof Designs discount code or something like that to make up for. You tried to prove me wrong, but I'm not taking it.
yeah, since you're in control, you can just deny it, right?
No, I did. It was a good try. I want to see one that just looks hammered like a back disc guard. Because those get run through stuff, and then all the way to the bike's on, and it's drugged through it. Where the front, I don't know.
Yeah, you ram the front into something that hard, and you're going to have more damage on other
there's
parts of the bike.
different kinds of things. So, hey,
Okay.
thanks George for showing up. I can't believe you stuck around. I know you wanted to leave, but thanks for the interview. I got to get a little bit of my former life off my chest, explain it to people. So when people say, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" Excuse my French. we can say episode 163.
Yep.
Right. That's how I got here. And if you don't want to do that, then don't listen to the show. It's that simple. Thanks to Fasst Company, I'm putting these foot pegs on my Tenere. If I ride back to California, these foot pegs will be on it because
Adjustable, though. You heard it here first.
George's idea. Yeah,
System.
I'll send that to Cole. What was that? At minute like 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, make a note of that and send it to Cole. So, with that, anything else? Do you have anything else to get off your chest?
Next school is full, so you're going to have to wait for the spring schedule to come out.
Yeah, sign up for our newsletter at jimmylewisoffroad.com. Yeah, classes are full, which is really good because the economy is tanking. Wait, isn't that going to all change after this election?
It won't change quick enough.
It's not going to change quick enough?
No.
I got some news from multiple sources today that it's begun. I noticed this I don't know, the last time gas
The
jumped.
tanking.
The tanking.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
tanking. Yeah.
So my tests are always look at like the RV yards now are all just overflowing with inventory, so people aren't buying those up.
Yeah.
You know, and equipment yards, rental yards, things like that. If they got a lot of equipment in the yards, and then my other gauge is how many utility trucks with working people are going down the highway. If
You
there's
have to
a
wake
lot
up
of
early
those,
in the
things
morning.
are going good. If there's not so many, they're not. So that's what you heard right here from George.
Got it from George.
That's
How
our
to
report
ju-
on the economy.
How to judge the
We
economy.
can do weather next. Just look outside and go.
Hey, it's raining,
looks
and I'm
like
going
it's-
riding.
looks like rain.
That's it.
Going
That's
in the
that's how it
sand.
works here. Gonna go rip around in the sand if I can afford the time. But the economy's tanking, so I can't afford the time. So things are just going downhill. But with that, we'll see you next week on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. We think it's going to be a regular show from here. If you want to be a special guest on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, let us know because we obviously let anybody in. You can be a guest host.
Mr. Happy should probably be the thing we forward around the world and see where it goes.
Yeah, we can put Mr. Happy, give him some patches and stuff and see what it does. So thank you everybody for joining. Thanks, Mojave Bob. Are you awake still? Yeah. So Bob's still awake. Matt, good job tonight.
Thank you.
All those fuck ups were pretty managed. I'm gonna thank myself because I can't believe I still do this 163
Jimmy.
times. Yeah. And thanks George for joining us here on the show. Thanks everybody for participating, joining in the chat, watching us on the YouTubes and the Facebooks and all different things. Send us emails, questions, comments, concerns, or we'll see you out.